and expatriate taxation. So today we have learned speaker Srimati Smita Patni ji. So ma'am would be taking a session on section 195 and form 3 CEB, form 15 CA CEB filing 10F. So it is one of the most hottest topic at the moment. So this is the talk of the professional at the moment, and ma'am would be sailing us through the sections breakup. So 195, as most of us are in practice, came across on daily basis. Like firstly, the section is not clear that on what amount TDS to be deducted. The rate for the rate we have to travel to multiple sections, 115A, many times DTAA, so sometimes 206A. So a lot of section needs to be catered in before reaching out to a conclusion on the TDS perspective, withholding perspective. Similarly, the tax residency certificate, obtaining tax residency certificate, as we discussed yesterday also, that it is also one of the key important element. And so ma'am would be covering the practical aspects around it. She will also discuss upon the online filing and overall applicability of 10F. So as yesterday also learned speaker said, discussed that this is not quite clear. This is not coming directly from the law. However, as a procedural requirement, now the 10F has been made mandatory to obtain electronically. So there are a lot of questions and haywire around applicability of 10F, applicability of PAN, or to whether a non-resident needs to obtain a PAN or not, what we have to advise, how we have to advise, how we have to draft actually opinion before writing to the client. So we have learned speaker Ms. Smita Patni ji, who would be taking us through the session. About the profile of Ms. Smita ji, she is a practicing chartered accountant, also holding a law degree based out in Delhi, and has a post-qualification experience of around 23 years. She regularly advises domestic and international clients from various sectors in tax matters and is well versed in almost all facets of the accounting profession, with her core area of expertise being international tax and transfer pricing. She specializes in tax planning and advisory for non-residents, wherein she advises clients on how to navigate through Indian tax laws coupled with foreign exchange control regulations. She is a regular speaker, act as moderator and group leader in various seminars, and has many articles in her various publications in her name, including ICI recent publication on technical guide on FTS royalty, and the most recent one, background material on UAE certificate course. She is also an expert in writing direct tax committee of ICI and is also a proactive member of the executive committee of IFRA. So before moving to the technical discussion, I would request Sumit ji to welcome ma'am for this session, and then we will proceed for the session further. Okay.
So very good morning to all of you.
Very good morning.
So at the outset, I would like to thank the organizing committee of CASA, Shri Sumit Garji, Amit Sharma ji, Anshul ji, and our own dear Shri Sachin Sinha ji. I'm sure he must be listening from Zoom. So thank you for providing me an opportunity to speak here in front of all the eminent learned professionals, and providing me this platform as an eminent platform on the evergreen topic of withholding taxes under 195. So now coming to this, this topic is not new to all of us. It's an old topic. I will try to do justice to the topic provided to me, and would try to bring out the subtle nuances of the subject underlying within the layer of section 195, and along dealing with the practical aspects of section 15 CV and 15 CA. I would also like to thank CA Arpit Jain ji, whom I was discussing from last 2 or 3 days on this subject, and the presentation could not have been completed without him. Thank you. Now coming to the topic, straight away to the topic, objectives of section 195. So now first I'll give you the background of section 195. So section 195 is not a new subject. It's not a new topic. It was also there in the old section, old act 18B and 18C of the old Act 1922. So now in this currently section 195, we have plethora of cases, plethora of judgments. Every day there is a new amendment. It is basically dealing with the payment to non-resident. This is the only section which deals with whenever we are going to deduct taxes to a non-resident. Section 195 comes into play. This is one of the most important and the most hot topic, as already said by Amitji. Now, the reason of bringing this topic, bringing this section in the amendment or section in the legislature, the main reason which I feel the revenue bought, and which is also there in circular number 152, that the non-residents were to be the taxes on non-residents were to be deducted at the earliest point of time, so that to ensure that all the recovery of the taxes has been done, because there is a possibility that after at the time of assessment, maybe complete assets of the non-resident may not be here. That is one reason. The other reason is that to check the tax evasion, because once the assets or once the amount goes out of the hands, that means out of the country through banking channel or whatever, there is no way to deduct tax on the non-resident. So that is the reason, to ensure that the taxes are completely withheld. In case of non-resident, the taxes are deducted at the first point of time itself. It of course also increases the revenue, the amount of revenue, as we all know, because taxes on non-revenue, obviously the amount is higher, stakes are higher, so the amount withheld is also higher. In all other sections which we deal of with the TDS sections, generally that is considered as an advance tax, and then you have an assessment of tax also later on. But in case of section 195, we consider it as an ultimate tax. This is generally considered as the final tax. Generally, assessments are not there. There are, of course, relaxations for not filing of TD returns also. So we would consider this as an ultimate or the final tax. So now coming to section 195. So 195 has 7 clauses in it, 195.1 till 195.7. I have broke the section 195 into 5 baskets in section clause 1 of 195. So I would first read only one line of that. Any person responsible for paying to a non-resident. I stop here. So any person responsible for paying to a non-resident has three portions. Any person responsible for paying and to a non-resident. As already explained, any person paying to a non-resident would be covered under the ambit of 195.1. So any person would include, as defined under section 2, subsection 31. There are 7 categories. HUF, individual, you have firm, you have company, you have artificial judicial person. Whosoever are there defined under any person would be covered in it. So even the non-resident and resident both would be covered. RNOR, NOR, OR, ROR, everybody will be covered under the definition of any person. There is no exclusion in the definition of any person. Any person who is going to make a payment to a non-resident will be covered under any person. Now, responsible for paying. Now, in case of individual, as we say, responsible for paying comes to his own individuality. He has to pay. So he is responsible for paying. In case of company, we go to section 204, where principal officer is supposed to pay. So he is responsible for paying. There is one more category, that is agent under section 163, which falls under responsible for paying. So this is a new category which was inserted in, I think, 2020 only. And it says that even the agent of a non-resident would be covered under responsible for paying. Now to whom? Non-resident. Non-resident as defined under 2 subsection 30. Non-resident, now they are saying that non-resident is not being a company or to a foreign company. So not being a company, that means non-resident other than a foreign company. So foreign company is one category and all other non-residents fall under 2 categories. So non-resident, all the category which is a foreign company, and non-foreign company as defined under 222A or 223A in the Income Tax Act. Non-resident as defined under 2 subclause 30, but it would not include NROR. Not ordinarily resident is not included in this category. Now coming to POEM, place of effective management, as we all know, is a main trust. So when we say that foreign company, the foreign company is already defined under 222 and 223 of the Act. So that is already covered. the foreign company becomes a poem by virtue of its being resident here, or by virtue of place of effective management being in India. But that doesn't stop for the resident to not to deduct tax for a non-resident, which is a poem, which is a foreign company, but which has become poem only because of the reason that the taxes were only because of the reason that it becomes a resident company in India by virtue of its being effective management in India. So even there is a specific notification by the department which says that the non-resident company, that a foreign company which is a non-resident company, which is a poem, or which becomes a resident company by virtue of poem, will still be treated as a foreign company for all the purposes of 195.
So for chargeability of tax of that company, it will be a poem.
Yeah.
For determining the residential status, it will be a resident area.
Yeah.
But for deduction of TDS, it will be a non-resident.
Correct. Absolutely fine. Now,
so ma'am, DTAA not applicable in this case.
I will come to that. So now coming to the point that the other thing which we need to test at this point of time is that test of residency for a non-resident. Now we say generally, for a non-resident individual, we test at the year end, fag end. We say that on the 31st March, while filing of returns, we come to know whether we have to determine the tax residency. But specifically, when we are making payment on 195, at that very point of time when we are making payment, we are supposed to check his residency, whether he was a non-resident at that particular point of time when the payment was made to him. So that is very important at least at this point of time. You don't have to check his non-resident status at the year end because you are making payment as on date. So the payment or the test of residency for the non-resident has to be checked at that very point of time.
Considering the number of days which have
whatever. Yeah, I will not go into section 6 determination of
Should be
for the
yeah.
clarity.
Only for the clarity that non-resident has to be a non-resident on the date of making payment.
That can be only a declaration from.
I will come to that. I will come to that on TRC and TNF also.
Now, suppose somebody came to India permanently, so let's say on 10th of April, and he sold some property here, and bought some new property. On 10th of April, he is a non-resident because he's not in India for the last 3-4 years. But now he will be a permanent resident in India as per his declaration or intention, even though the TDS deduction will be same.
So for the non-resident definition under 2 subclause 30, which is there in income tax, we are not talking of FEMA. For the FEMA, intention of his being resident or non-resident is decided. So far as income tax is considered, only non-resident he should be as per income tax. That 182 days plus intention of staying here comes into FEMA. Whether he is a resident or non-resident for FEMA, we are not concerned. So far as 195 comes into play. So now coming to the third portion of it. So then we say that there are two nature of payments which are to be made. There are two categories which they have defined in this section. That is any interest or any sum chargeable to tax. They have made some exclusion also in this category. So for any interest, they have made 3 exclusions: 194 LB, LC and LD. The reason being that 194 LB, LC and LD all are already there at a subsidized rate of 5%. That bracket which is there at 194 LC should have been at 194 LD, and Anshulji was very much clear last time when we had a discussion on it that bracket might be a typo error and it should have been there. So the bracket, or maybe the reason is that this section was introduced later, so they must have somehow omitted or forgotten to shift that bracket from LC to LD. But section is placed as it is only. Then there is another category which is excluded, that is salaries under 196, under 192 already TDS is deducted. So there is no need to deduct tax under 195(1). That category is also excluded. We have any other sum which is chargeable to tax under the provisions of Act in taxable under this. I will come to the sum chargeable to tax separately also later on. I will just complete the basics of the section before that. Now they say that this sum chargeable to tax has to be paid has to be deducted, that TDS has to be deducted at the time of payment or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. Now we say, in case of accrual, if the books are maintained on the accrual basis, obviously at the time of credit comes first. So we need to deduct TDS that way. In case of cash books of maintenance, then we say the payment comes first, then we have to deduct TDS. TDS has to be deducted at the earliest point of time. That is the position. Now they say that, the payment has to be done through check or draft or any other mode. So check and draft, we are already clear. NEFT, we are already clear. Any other mode. Now, what does any other mode means? Any other mode means through, which is not directly through cash, or maybe in kind, or, maybe in kind, or maybe through credit card, debit card. Of course, I will come into credit card, debit card later. So any other mode in case it is paid in kind. For example, we can take a latest example of KBC. So they say that if you win 1 crore, plus you will get a car also, I think. So in case, let's say non-resident comes in place and he wins 1 crore also and car also. So are we saying that we are only going to deduct that prize money on that 195 only on that, the cash component of this? No. We are also going to deposit that extra TDS which is there on car, either by deducting through his cash price or by separately depositing it from our end. But that amount has to be deducted. There is a famous case law, I think, of Kanchenjunga Seafoods, where the trader said that, the fishes can be taken in lieu of the payment. So that is a decided case law. And they said, no, nothing doing. The TDS cash has to be deposited. TDS has to be deposited and paid, even if the fishes are there in lieu of the in kind, and the payment is not made. Now, the last portion of this is that deduct income tax at the rates in force. Now, what are the rates in force? 2 subclause 37(3), 2 subclause 37A(3) of the section of the Act defines the rates in force. It says those rates which are specified under the prevalent Act, under the provisions of the Act, that is Schedule 1, Part 2 of the Act, Finance Act, or DTAA, whichever is beneficial to the assessee. I will come to this portion also later on. So now there have been 2 provisos of 195 subsection 1. One proviso says that, if the payment is made by a government company, in that case, it will only be on the payment basis. TDS will only be withheld on the payment basis, and no credit or payment, whichever is earlier, will apply here. The second proviso, which has been deleted now, it was on the dividend. Now, dividend is automatically under the ambit of 195(1) because DDTS already gone. There are 2 explanations to 195(1), explanation 1 and explanation 2. Explanation 1 says that by whatever nomenclature you say of that sum chargeable to tax or interest, whatever name you give, interest payable, suspense account, whatever, if it is sum chargeable to tax, TDS has to be deducted. Explanation 2, which is now well settled law, and it was brought out in the Finance Act 2012. It is basically related to Vodafone, that any payment from non-resident to non-resident, tax has to be deducted irrespective of the place, whether that person has a place of residence, business connection, or any other presence in India. So what they are saying is, in case of Vodafone, as they said that, there were 2 companies, both were situated outside India. And the second company, the seller, I mean, let's say there was A company, there was B company. So the B company, which was a seller, had the capital assets, had the assets sitting in its books, which were located in India. So the physical assets or the capital assets were located in India, sitting in the books of B, which was a non-resident. He sold it to the A, which was a buyer. So the transaction was between A and B. So in that case, non-resident to non-resident. So we are going to say that TDS is supposed to be deducted. Why? Because the capital assets were located in India. That is the reason which was given. Of course, we will not go into the deep dive on this on explanation 5 of 9 subsection 1, because that is itself a Pandora box. So I will not go into that. But that was the thrust of it, that payment to non-resident is always a part. It has been, in fact, it has been changed from retrospective effect from 1962 only. That is what they are saying. Now coming to sum chargeable to tax, as I was explaining you. So sum chargeable to tax, as we know that section 4 is the charging section. So section 4 says that, rates of tax are prevalent there. Section 5 defines the scope of non-resident. So any income which is deemed to receive or receive in India, and any income which accrues or deemed to accrue in India, is in the scope of section 5 for non-resident. Section 6 of course, defines the residential status of a person. We need to check out that whether he is a resident as per section 6, both for the company, for the individual. Then section 9, which is a deeming section, which says that, certain incomes which are earned in India by a non-resident are chargeable to tax in India. For example, salary earned by a non-resident in India, it is taxable and chargeable in India, though his status is non-resident as per section 6. So these all are incomes which are some chargeable to tax. Of course, there are exclusions also which are not there in some chargeable to tax. Say, for example, as you said, that DTAA, if the incomes go out because of, we take a treaty benefit, then it is not some chargeable to tax. For example, agriculture income, NRE interest, gift to a non-resident. So there are some incomes which are not chargeable to tax also. So plus shipping income, which is not chargeable to tax. Now, there was a
Chargeability will be seen both in reference to the income tax as well as for DTA.
yeah. But the primary section, first chargeability has to be seen only through income tax. DTAA comes into play later on.
Yes.
Chargeability always comes for income tax.
So something is not chargeable and no TDS. Something
No.
is chargeable and TDS.
Yeah. Basic section 4, 5, 6, and 9. If that comes into play, then only we go to section 90. We are not going to section 90 before that.
Something is not chargeable then.
Yeah. If it is out of ambit, then we are automatically out of ambit. So now, coming back to this, so there was a G India case law, which is a decided proposition by Supreme Court, which said that only the income portion embedded in the total sum is chargeable to tax. It is not that the whole gross consideration or the gross amount would be chargeable to tax. Only the income portion would be chargeable to tax so far as sum chargeable to tax is concerned. Of course, we are unable to determine, then we can go to the AO and we will see how it happens that the AO can determine that portion. But so far as sum chargeable to tax is concerned, it is only that sum, only the income element, which for the purposes of section 195 is chargeable to tax. We have instruction 2/2014, which specifically says that the proportion of income has to be chargeable to tax. Then, in case of taxation of interest by branches to banks, we have a separate section which says that, if you even make a payment to, even if you make a payment from a bank, from an Indian bank to its foreign branch, then also it is chargeable to tax. Of course, now I think in 9(1) subsection 5, there's a specific explanation which says that whenever there is a bank payment, whenever a resident banker makes payment to its foreign branch, then sum is chargeable to tax and it will come under the ambit of section 9.
So, madam, in case of property purchase by the resident.
I will come to that. Sale of immovable property, I will come to that.
Gross or income portion.
Yeah. So sale of immovable property now, I think let us discuss now only if this point has come. So sale of immovable property, of course, the buyer is responsible to deduct the amount on the gross unconsideration made to the payer or to the non-resident. There is no second thought on that. We are very clear about it because the law says so. Now, so far as non-resident is concerned, non-resident says that, this is the complete amount. You are giving me 1 crore only. I am not taxable to India because I don't have any other asset. And this is a lost property. So what do I do? So the buyer says that I don't know anything. You go to the AO. AO will determine that whether that whole, go to the AO, apply for lower TDS. If you get that lower TDS, I will deduct the rate accordingly. If you do not go to the AO, if nothing happens, then I will deduct the complete amount on the gross consideration. So far as buyer's responsibility is considered, you have no choice but to deduct on the complete gross consideration, irrespective of the fact that, there is only a portion embedded in it. But in case the non-resident or the payer or payee, whosoever goes to the AO, ask for the determination of that portion, that only this much portion out of that, after giving his computation and all that, and he's satisfied, then he gives a lower TDS rate. In that case, buyer can go for a lower TDS, can deduct at a lower rate. Otherwise, so far as law is settled, there is no choice. Of course, you can still deduct at a, buyer will never do that. Even if he does that, then absolutely it is fine. But there are views on both sides. The best and the conservative view from the buyer side is that deduct on the complete portion if you want, until unless you have applied for a lower TDS.
But buyer can identify the profit amount, no? Just
Buyer will not be able to identify the
just
portion.
sale minus purchase cost from the sale.
No, sir, buyer will not be able to identify. Buyer is in no position to identify because law has thrusted upon him the responsibility of deducting the complete portion from the gross consideration. He is not in a position to determine what are the overall income of the non-resident.
As per law, this is some chargeable to the tax, okay?
Huh.
And some chargeable to tax, and some chargeable to tax is sale minus purchase price. Sale price, he knows.
Sir,
purchase
he will
price-
not be able to compute what is there in the hands of non-resident. Non-resident might be having 10 different incomes. We do not know. Buyer is not going to determine that. How will buyer determine? You tell me.
For that particular property, he can identify.
Sir, he is not in a position. Neither he is a chartered accountant nor he is a competent
सर, वो
person.
वाला लॉ लॉजिक भी नहीं लगेगा ना, जैसे आप एक प्रैक्टिकली देखिए, अब ऐसे तो लॉ में सरचार्ज और वो भी है ना? तो सरचार्ज के लिए तो आपको 1 करोड़ या उससे, मैं मान लेता हूँ कि ये वाली प्रॉपर्टी में उसको लॉस भी है, या मान लेते हैं कुछ इनकम है, ठीक है, बट जैसे सरचार्ज के लिए भी हम यही करते हैं ना, कि उसी इनकम को देखते हैं। मेरा पॉइंट है कि हम उसकी टोटल इनकम पर क्यों जा रहे हैं, हम उस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉपर्टी की बात कर रहे हैं, टैक्स रेट की बात कर रहा है ना वो। नहीं, वो कह रहा है कि एडमिशन चार्जेबल टू टैक्स अगर उसका है तो मेरे को उसको टीडीएस काटना, जो मैं पे कर रहा हूँ उसमें मैं उसको 1 करोड़ रुपए प्रॉपर्टी का पे कर रहा हूँ, जिसमें से उसने 80 लाख की प्रॉपर्टी खरीदी थी और 20 लाख का उसका कैपिटल गिरा, तो चार्जेबल टू टैक्स उस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉपर्टी के लिए 20 लाख का है।
Sir, I agree with you, but there is no way to determine that.
जैसे 20 लाख आपने कह दिया, ठीक है, हम मानते हैं कि उनकी
Basically, it means
प्रॉपर्टी
the loss is on the gross amount, and this is because
तो
of
20
Supreme
लाख है,
Court case
ठीक है, मान लेते हैं
that
सिर्फ 20 लाख है,
we are
तो
considering the
आपको,
income is
हाँ, you will go to the AO will
that
determine
will be
it.
litigated. Buyer himself is doing all the thing, which is wrong. Yes.
Sir, अगर आप कम काट देंगे, then you will have a liability. Purchaser will have the liability and he will have to bear the taxes.
इस केस में अगर परचेजर भूल गया या काटता नहीं है ड्यू टू इग्नोरेंस,
Assessee in default 201.
लेकिन जो एनआरआई है वो पैसा बाहर लेके जाना चाहता है, बैंक वाला बोला 15 सीवी लेके आओ, तो उस केस में क्या ऐसे सीए कि हमें जिम्मेदारी बनती है रिस्पांसिबिलिटी?
सर 15 CB आप कैसे इशू करेंगे? TDS ही नहीं कटा हुआ है।
नहीं कटा हुआ ना, तो उसकी कंप्यूटेशन भी हम कर सकते हैं, कैपिटल गेन की जो सेल माइनस परचेज।
सर आप
टैक्स होगा,
आप कंप्यूटेशन करेंगे, बट आप 15 CB इशू करेंगे। आप 15 CB CA तभी इशू कर सकते हैं जब वो ऑलरेडी TDS है। इसमें तो ऑलरेडी इन प्लेस है, एक स्टेप पहले। There is one step before the TDS computation, before that amount is remitted.
उस केस में अब हमारे
आप एडवांस टैक्स जमा करवाओ,
You deposit all the tax as on date.
आप जब अपना सर्टिफिकेट इशू कर रहे हो उससे पहले आप यू मेक श्योर दैट द एसएससी हैज पेड द एडवांस
Complete tax.
और आप उससे एक डिक्लेरेशन लो कि आप इसका रिफंड क्लेम नहीं करोगे।
सर प्रैक्टिकली रजिस्ट्री नहीं होगी मेरा टीडीएस का।
नहीं सर, रजिस्ट्री तो हो जाती है।
तो आजकल ये करके कर देते हैं।
रजिस्ट्री हो जाती है, दैट अमाउंट इज डिडक्टेड, रजिस्ट्री हो रही है सर।
रजिस्ट्री में क्या होता है, बहुत बार क्या होता है कि आप डिक्लेयर ही नहीं करते हो कि वो नॉन रेजिडेंट है, वो इंडिया का कोई एड्रेस
बंदे ने बताया नहीं, मतलब टीडीएस नहीं काटा, सब कुछ हो गया। अब जब एनआरआई ने अपनी रिटर्न कर दी, सारा टैक्सेस पे कर दिए, तब भी जो असेसी इन डिफॉल्ट है जिसने टीडीएस नहीं काटा है
उस पे तो लायबिलिटी है, he has to pay tax, he has to pay interest,
सामने से बोल लिया है कि उसने सारा टैक्स पे
he has to pay interest,
तो उतने ड्यू पीरियड का इंटरेस्ट पे करना
पे करना पड़ेगा। Plus you know AO can always call him saying that you know
ऑप्शन है,
AO can always ask him and call him that why did you deposit the tax and why, what were the reasons. So there are you know consequences of non-filing also. I have a whole list of sheet I will show you that you know these are all the reasons where you know you will fall. So it is not so easy and it is not the correct position.
मतलब बायर सब पे इंटरेस्ट देके बच सकता है।
हाँ, see buyer has to be very clear.
कंडीशन तब है कि वो पूरा पे कर दे, रिटर्न
सेटलमेंट हो जाए,
बट मैम इसमें एक चीज और भी है, हमें तो काटना था 1 करोड़ पे। जब बायर ने अपनी रिटर्न फाइल करी होगी, वो तो करेक्टली फाइल करी होगी आफ्टर डिटरमाइनिंग द टैक्स, तो जो अब हमारा जो इंटरेस्ट पेएबल बनेगा वो 1 करोड़ के टीडीएस पे बनेगा या डिफरेंशियल उस टैक्स
ग्रॉस कंसिडरेशन पे सर, आपको तो 1 करोड़ पे काटना था सर,
1 करोड़ पे
आपको कोई मतलब नहीं है उसने क्या करा। You don't even know how much income he has because he is only giving you that portion of income on which he has bought from you or which he has sold out to you. You are not aware of his 26 AS and TIS. So we are not competent enough to do that. That's what I'm saying. You are not supposed to. Sir,
मैं तो सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट क्योंकि वो तो अब रिटर्न भर चुका है ना, तो अब मेरे पास ये प्ली भी हो सकती है कि उसका उसका टैक्स ही नहीं था।
सर वो प्ली आपके पास नहीं, वो एओ ही डिसाइड करेगा।
बट मैं इंटरेस्ट बता देंगे
इंसिडेंस तो पहले आ जाता है ना, टीडीएस का इंसिडेंस तो एट द टाइम ऑफ पेमेंट ही आ गया ना, तो आपकी लायबिलिटी तो उस दिन डिटरमाइन होगी है ना, आप आगे पे जा क्यों रहे हो, आगे वो क्या करेगा।
सर मैं तो भूल ही गया, मैं तो ये कह रहा हूँ ना, असेसी भूल गया,
इग्नोरेंस हो गई,
रह गया।
Ignorance of law, sir, is no reason to plead.
इग्नोरेंस ऑफ लॉ है ना।
आप कल को if somebody we does something wrong which we are aware of it, that doesn't say that we are doing it wrong. We know that we are doing it wrong.
बचने का काम है इधर।
जो जैसे अंशुल सर बता रहे थे ऐसा बहुत होता है, जो इंडियन नॉन रेसिडेंट है कि उनका वो इंडिया में उनका घर भर होता है तो वो 1% पे टीडीएस करता
हाँ,
है।
there are people
ऐसे
who do
बहुत
it.
सारे लोग, बहुत सारा
आप औरों की क्या बताओगे, मैंने जो खुद घर खरीदा था उसमें ये किया था।
तो आप तो रेसिडेंट आप तो रेसिडेंट हो। अच्छा आप तो
जिस घर में मैं अभी प्रेजेंटली रह रहा हूँ, जिस घर में मैं अभी प्रेजेंटली रह रहा हूँ, और एनआरआई ने बेचा था,
और एक्चुअली
हमने वो 1% का काटा था, कर दिया था। उनका हमें डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं है तो क्या करोगे?
उनका एजेंट है वो, इसलिए उसको
Sir, this is online, sir.
क्या
This is
बोल रहे
online.
हैं?
नहीं, मैं काफी टाइम पहले की बात कर रहा हूँ।
Everybody is listening, sir.
नहीं, इसमें जो एक मेजर प्ले होता है सर, जो इनके एजेंट होते हैं ना, उनको पता है कि नॉन रेसिडेंट वर्सेस रेसिडेंट का 20 वर्सेस 1, तो
पता है, लेकिन
वो उनको ज्ञान देते
बहुत बार आपको पता ही नहीं होता।
मैं बता रहा हूँ
उसकी डिक्लेरेशन,
अगर आपके पास आधार कार्ड है, पैन कार्ड है, आपके पास रेजिडेंशियल एड्रेस घर इधर का है, तो हाउ वुड यू कम टू नो कि वो एनआरआई है? हाँ, वो तो आप मांग ही लोगे तो पता कैसे चलेगा? मतलब you are not supposed to
कह
get-
देगा कहीं
पासपोर्ट छोड़ो, टेक्निकली तो ये भी होता है कि वो इंडिया से 20 साल पहले चले गए और उनका पैन बना हुआ है दिल्ली के एड्रेस।
तो अब वो
आज
डिफॉल्ट पे है
का है।
वो डिफॉल्ट पे है। अगर उनका आधार है, मतलब वो डिस्कशन अलग है, अभी इस पे फोकस करते हैं, ठीक है?
ठीक है, so let us continue ahead.
मैं इसमें एक क्वेरी होती है, जैसे अभी हमारा सरचार्ज वाली बात है, अगर किसी की 1 CR से ऊपर होता है सरचार्ज का रेट हमारा वेट
हाँ।
कर जाता है, तो हमने जैसे किसी का टीडीएस काटा था, ठीक है, लेकिन सामने वाली क्लाइंट ने जैसे हमें कहा था कि उसकी इनकम डेफिनेटली कम है तो सरचार्ज कम हो गया, लेकिन आज की डेट में जैसे वो रिटर्न फाइल भी कर चुका है, उसका कम आ गया है और उसकी वजह से सरचार्ज कम भी लगना चाहिए था उसको।
उसमें क्या करेंगे, 15% का क्या कर सकता है?
No, so in that case, well, at the time of filing of his return by a non-resident, he will take care of that. You will only have to consider.
हाँ,
You will only have to
बाहर से भी ना मतलब कम सरचार्ज लगा दिया था क्योंकि he has declared as a computation of income drafted.
No, he has to deduct TDS on gross consideration. तो सर फिर बात ही खत्म हो गई ना।
सरचार्ज
सरचार्ज काटेगा ना पूरा।
आपने कितनी पेमेंट की non-resident पे?
सर 1 करोड़ की अगर प्रॉपर्टी है तो 1 करोड़ पे काटेगा। अब चाहे उसकी इनकम 2 करोड़ हो, चाहे 5 करोड़ हो या 50 लाख ही हो ओवरऑल, उसे 1 करोड़ से consider करना।
आप उस पे देखिए,
आपका जो ग्रॉस कंसिडरेशन है ओनली दैट पर्सन,
और कितना कमाता है,
दैट इज नन ऑफ आवर कंसर्न।
तो इधर फोकस करते हैं,
आगे स्टार्ट करते हैं।
मल्टीपल क्वेरीज नहीं चलाते हैं, आगे बढ़ते हैं थोड़ा सा, इसके बाद लेते हैं क्वेरीज।
ठीक है, so now coming to the rates in force. So as already discussed that 237A subclause 3 are the rates in force which are there in the Finance Act schedule, Finance Act part 2 of the first schedule, which determines the rates on which TDS has to be deducted, or the rates which are there in section 90 or 90A, whichever is beneficial to the assessee. That is the standard what we are talking of, that these rates on which TDS has to be deducted. But of course, there are exceptions to these rates also. In case, as we are saying that we take a rate, we take a lower withholding certificate of 195.23, then these rates will not come into play. If in case when there is a MFN clause which comes into play because of the protocol of the treaty, then again these rates will not come into play. There are presumptive tax rates of 44B, BB. So then again these rates will not come into play. Then there are rates of in case on the first day of the financial year, no rates were decided. Somehow, the Income Tax Act did not come into force or on 1st April next year. So in that case, section 294 comes into play, and it says the last year rates which were there and which were available and beneficial to the assessee will continue to be there until the act is passed and becomes a law. So these are the standard rates in force. Now there is a new amendment which has come, as you are all aware. The rates have been shifted in case of FTS royalty from 10 to 20%. That is there in 115A also, and that is there in Finance Act Schedule 2, first Schedule 1, Part 2 of the Act also. These rates were there initially up to 31st March 10%. They have been shifted to 20%. So I'll just give you the background as how, the rates shifted. And so what happened was that in the year 2013, this was at the time of P. Chidambaram was the finance minister. So before 2013, the rate was 10%. So he shifted that rate to 25%, saying that, there is an anomaly between the act and the treaty rates. So people are taking advantage of the act. So I will shift the rate from 10 to 25%. Coming to year 2015, when Arun Jaitley was there. So Arun Jaitley ji said that, there are young entrepreneurs in India and, we need business growth. So I will again reduce the rate from 25 to 10%. Now we are sitting in the current year. Till the Finance Act came, that was 1st February, there was no discussion of the rates. The rates were as it is. The rates which were changed came in the fag end, that is 24th March. And the rates were as it is without any discussions with the stakeholders. There was no clarity in the memorandum why these rates have changed. And the rates came as it is, and the rates are as it is, and we are taking. The only, of course, we do not know what is the objective and the motive behind this of the government, and we are nobody to discuss as why the rates have been shifted from 10 to 20% or increased from 10 to 20%. But the only thing which I would say that it would give a huge impact and deepen the pockets of the payer and the non-resident both. And the cash crunch, which is always there, will increase because of the rate of increase. But presently, we have to bear that the rates are 20% as on date for FTS royalty. Now, there are
15 CB if you get 10%.
So now, say there are two things. One is that, the rates are, since we deducted on 31st March and we deducted the rate at 10%, assumingly because on 31st March, on year 1, the rate was 10%. After that, because of any reason, because the rates, because, the payment increased, or because, at the time of assessment or whatever, the rate was increased from 10 to 20%, because year 2, the rate is 10-20%. So in that case, we need to deposit that differential. We can take two views. One view is that, we said that our books are closed on 31st March. We have already deducted 10% and we would not do anything because we have already did. Yeah. The invoices for that 31st March only. That's what I'm talking about.
Just say 15 CB.
Actually, in your case, you are talking of April. But anyways, I will tell you what of this year, of that year when the invoice is related to the previous year. So in that case, you deduct the tax, you go to the next year, and then you realize, because that he has changed the invoice, or the amount has changed, or the assessment at the time of assessment non-resident, that the payment increased, which belonged to the previous year, where we have already deducted the rate of 10%. So on that balance amount, there are two views. That, one is that because it pertained to the previous year, we will still go with the 10% rate. That is one view. The second view is that, since it has come in the pertain to the current year, the payment is made in the current year, the changes were made in the current year, we were not aware in the previous year. So we are going to deduct the differential of 10% on the incremental portion. That is one. Now coming to your point, you are saying that, the invoice is raised today, everything is done today, then there's no problem, deduct 20%.
नहीं वो ये
But
कह रहे हैं
yes,
कि वो काट के जमा करा दिया 10%.
By mistake,
how?
हो गया
By
गलती
mistake
से
10% हो गया।
by mistake 10% हो गया.
अब क्या?
अब क्या कौन सी
You add it, you deduct more and deposit more 10%.
डिडक्शन हो नहीं सकती क्योंकि वो पैसा वन टाइम जाना था, हो गया.
So gross up करके कर दो 195 है.
वही है. क्रॉस अप करो अमाउंट को, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल आपका 10%.
I will come to that 195A specifically. I have a whole slide for it. So I will explain you how to do the crossing up. But for the time being, as Anshuji is rightly saying, crossing up कर दो.
क्रॉसिंग अप करके जमा करा दो.
जमा करो. अब अपनी जेब से जमा करवा दो. जो भी बचा हुआ टैक्स है, you have to deposit. Government is not concerned how you are going to deposit.
Absolutely.
Government is only interested that his fare, his pie is there. 50 CB revoke कर दो.
नहीं होगा ना,
UDI
वो
revoke कर दो।
चला गया ना, चला गया।
60 days में UDI and you can revoke.
नहीं वो यूज हो गया ना,
यूज हो गया ना।
You
Smita ji,
70 withdrawal.
स्मिता जी वो यूज हो गया,
अच्छा, it has been used.
इट हैज बीन यूज्ड, तो वो नहीं कर पाओगे। नहीं वो छोड़ो ना सर, वो हो जाएगा, मतलब सिंपल है, इतना ज्यादा दिक्कत नहीं है। वो आप ग्रॉस अप करो, अमाउंट कैलकुलेट करो, वो एक्स्ट्रा जमा करा दो, फॉर्म 15 को अब गलती हो गई भूल जाओ।
लिख के दे देना, जमा हो रखा है तो कुछ नहीं होगा वैसे भी।
गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं कहेगी, जमा
जमा हो रखा है कुछ नहीं होने वाला।
सर एसएससी इन डिफॉल्ट आएगा तो भी आपको वो टैक्स का इंक्रीमेंटल पोर्शन तो डिपॉजिट ही करना पड़ेगा ना।
वो आज ही करा दो।
नहीं करी ना सर।
बाहर वाला बंदा है ना सर, फाइल नहीं किया।
सर वो आपको देगा नहीं देगा,
वो बाहर वाला
फॉर्म
बंदा है,
26 है।
Sir, we are not concerned with non-resident. The liability of deducting tax is with any person based out in India, resident, non-resident, who is in India. So coming to 195 subsection 237, as 195(2) is basically this is where the payer makes an application to the AO saying he is unable to determine what portion or what income element is embedded in some chargeable to tax. So he goes to the AO, request him that kindly determine that portion and issue me a certificate on and I think in 195 subsection 2 there is an order. So he gets an order from the AO that this is the rate, this is the amount, and this is the sum in which TDS is to be deducted, and this is the sum where no TDS is to be deducted. Basically, he apportions that amount, and sum is chargeable to tax only on that apportioned income element. So far as 195 subsection 2 is concerned. 195 subsection 3 is from the payee side. So payee makes an application. 195 subsection 3 is for specific persons. There are two categories of persons which are there in 195 subsection 3. They are banking or insurance, or persons who are carrying business through branch in India. So these are the payees which can go to the AO AO for determining and requesting only for the nil rate of withholding certificate. 195 subsection 3 only for the nil withholding certificate. It is not for the lower. Now in case you feel that you don't fall in any of the categories, or you are not wanting to have nil rate of withholding, you go to 197. 197 is applicable for both resident and non-resident payee, lower and nil withholding both. Form 13 to file, and you can go to AO requesting him to issue a certificate. In case of 195 subsection 2, order is issued. In case of 195 subsection 3 and 197, certificate is issued. Order is appealable under 246A. Certificate is not appealable under 195(3) and 197. So the only remedy available is that you go to 263, 264, or a writ jurisdiction or whatever.
It is discretionary power of AO.
Discretionary power of AO only in 195 subsection 2 where it's an order. Sir, 195(3) or 197 में certificate issue होता है, order देता ही नहीं है वो. There is a difference between certificate and order. So for that, it is not available under 246A. 195(3) and 197. You have no choice except to go to 263, 264 or apply for a jurisdiction.
So 195(2) says that I'm making a payment of 70 lakhs. Out of this much is the income and this should be taxed. That is the intent of 195(2).
हाँ sir, 195 is only the determination of the proportion of the amount.
Practically it happens. This happens.
Yes sir. रोज होता है sir.
So
how is it determined?
आप
paying an amount for a professional technical service, whatever is the amount, how do you determine what is the income out of that?
No.
Low rate.
एक मिनट सर, जहाँ पे आप फी फॉर टेक्निकल सर्विसेज, प्रोफेशनल सर्विसेज, रॉयल्टी, एफटीएस में चले गए, वहाँ तो इनकम का एलिमेंट का है ही ना, ग्रॉस बेसिस टैक्सेशन। आपको कोई खर्चा मिलना ही नहीं। ईपीसी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जैसे हम कल डिस्कस कर रहे थे, ईपीसी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, आपका प्रोजेक्ट ऑफिस बन गया, ब्रांच ऑफिस बन गया, जो बहुत सारी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपनीज होती हैं।
Lessen the expenses and then
हाँ, you can give them the computation on the basis.
ONGC है, जैसे ONGC फाइल करता है, और बहुत सारे कंपनीज हैं, वो प्रॉपर्टी के केस में हो सकता है। जैसे आप एनआरआई से प्रॉपर्टी खरीद रहे हैं, आप उसमें कैपिटल गेन कंप्यूट करते हो, फिर वो पूरी कंप्यूटेशन आप फाइल करते हो विद ओरिजिनल डॉक्यूमेंट्स, वहां पे फिर ये डिटरमाइन होता है कि इतना पार्ट में कैपिटल गेन लगेगा।
Sir, 195.3 is for specific person. They have defined the category of persons also. Only banking person, insurance person, or a person who is having a branch in India. नहीं, they can avail 197, 195 subsection 3 में nil rate मिलेगी उनको. 197 में they can apply for a lower withholding also. जहाँ पे nil rate नहीं चाहिए. But there is a dedicated. Sir, nil rate के लिए if a banking or a insurance sector has to go, there is a specific dedicated section. 195 subsection 3 only. If he is not applying for a nil rate and he is applying for a lower rate, then of course you can go for 195.3 also. And it is for the PE also, for all the PEs which are there, where business income. So that will also, a person who is having a branch will only go to 195 subsection 3 if he is applying for a nil withholding. Of course, if he is not applying for a nil withholding, then you can go to 197. 197, both resident and non-resident can go. Resident because we are talking of resident because of the rental incomes which are there.
197 and 195(2) ये दो सबसे मेजर यूज होते हैं।
तो जैसे
Form-
प्रॉपर्टी अगर कोई बेच रहा है तो we should go for the 197 or 195. Generally go for
197 कौन सा
But I just
18
want to understand why, I mean, 195 too, he also can go.
सर 195 टू पेयर जाएगा,
पेयर जाएगा।
197 पे ही जाएगा.
पेयर कहता है मैं क्यों
मैम 197 में भी पे और पे दोनों जा सकते हैं, उनसे डॉक्यूमेंट्स लेके उसको रिप्रेजेंट
सर वो अलग बात है. लॉ बोलता है पे ही जाएगा. एप्लीकेशन कौन फाइल करेगा? पे ही फाइल करेगा. नहीं सर, करेक्ट है, आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट. उसके ब्याह पे हम काम करते हैं, दैट इज ओके. अगर 195
फॉरेन
में
कंपनी की
रिजेक्ट
आप
होता
करते
है
थे तो ये सोचने कि आप कर रहे हो।
तो ही कैन गो टू 197.
197.
There is no bar. There's no bar. He'll go to 197.
प्रैक्टिकली एक इशू क्या रहता है 197 कई बार ये लोग देखते नहीं है, रिजेक्ट कर देते, तो उसकी रेमेडी
सर रेमेडी है, आप मिलो जाके सब रेमेडी वाले।
Rejection से पहले मिलना पड़ेगा. This is out of course.
हाँ, आगे चलते हैं, आगे चलते हैं।
This is out of course. And we are, I think, on a Zoom also. So let us.
97, I face a practical problem.
जी जी.
My client was having a capital gain of 12 CR.
जी.
And he was investing, intended to invest in property, let's say 5 CR. But they allowed me a lower deduction only on the portion of the capital gain computation basis, not allowing the deduction under section 54.
एक्चुअल प्रूफ नहीं है.
Sir, actual proof नहीं होगा ना उस दिन पे.
We have given हम लोग को बोला था कि हम इन्वेस्टमेंट करके आपको दे देते हैं,
नहीं वो नहीं
नहीं
बट वो कहते हैं हमारा इंटरनल सर्कुलर है जिसमें
हाँ,
indemnity bond के base पे या
वो आपको
इंडेमनिटी पे नहीं देते सर. अगर आप एक्चुअली 54 EC पे REC बॉन्ड्स खरीद लोगे.
मैंने उनको बोला give the bond copy also.
सर वो नहीं देंगे आपको, वो नहीं देंगे आपको,
But they have
रिटर्न
denied.
करना पड़ेगा।
I think there are two things on it. One is that if you already purchase the bond under 54 REC bonds or whatever one, then if you go to them, then I have.
देखो REC बॉन्ड पहली बात तो सिर्फ 50 लाख तक होगा।
हाँ, obviously 50 लाख. See, we are talking of the amount.
We have taken the property also, so हमने बोला था टोकन मनी आपको पूरा पेमेंट कर देते हैं, but they have denied.
सर वो नहीं देंगे, वो क्योंकि वो फ्यूचर ट्रांजैक्शन एक तरीके से है, वो आपको ये नहीं पता कि उनको ये नहीं पता कि आपने और भी कोई कैपिटल गेन किया है कि नहीं
2
किया।
साल पहले मुझे बेनिफिट मिला था और अभी 6 महीने पहले उन्होंने denied.
हम नहीं
On the
देते।
basis of
कुछ ना
it.
सर बोला है ये सो डायरेक्ट लोन वगैरह का वीडियो पर
Sir, आप if as
अब एक साल पहले जो प्रॉपर्टी खरीदते हो 54 पे उसका भी मिल जाता है।
सर लेकिन वो नहीं
आप
देते हैं,
कंप्यूटेशन में कर
वो
लीजिए.
कंप्यूटेशन
सबसे
में
बढ़िया
आपको
तरीका तो
आपके
ये
रिफंड में ही क्लेम करना होगा।
ब्लॉक हो गया है.
मेरा पैसा वो 2 करोड़ पे ब्लॉक हो गया,
Correct.
12 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी।
हाँ.
तो मेरा वो
At the time of return filing, that is the only option.
फाइल करेंगे तो रिफंड
Correct. Sir,
ब्लॉकेज को अवॉइड कर रहे हैं।
sir, that is what I say. 197 में हमारे पास दो ही ऑप्शन है, 263, 264 या रिट पिटीशन.
आप हाँ रिट पिटीशन में चले
File
जाओ
कर
कि भाई हमने ये दिया था।
हाँ, बस.
ब्लॉक हो गया।
मतलब-
मैंने बहुत आर्गुमेंट करा वहाँ पे गया,
Sir,
वो नहीं
sir,
दिया।
most of the times they don't do, but you are rightly saying पहले करते थे. Even I have got it done. PW REC के bonds पे पहले देते थे. They used to do it. So next, grossing up. So now let us say Anshul ji has shifted to Netherlands, and and I have some consulting assignment in Netherlands, and I request Anshul ji to do it on my part. So he says that, I'm going to charge 10,000 euros for the same. I said, fine, I'm going to deduct 20% on it and I'm going to pay you 8,000 euros. He said, no, boss, nothing doing. I want my 10,000 euros. I am not concerned with your Indian laws, with your taxation. I want my 10,000 euros. So what is to be done? So then I go to grossing up. I fair enough. I tell him fair enough. I will pay you your 10,000. Government says, I tell to the government, fair enough, I will pay you your 2,500, 10,000 divided by 100 minus 20%, the rate of tax which is there. So that comes to 100 upon 80 into 12,000 into 10,000. That comes to 12,500 roughly. So 12,500 is the sum chargeable to tax in this case. So we are grossing up the amount. We are paying him net of taxes, and we are paying the differential of that 2,500 to the government. So the taxes deposited to the government is on 12,500 into 20%. 10,000 is going to the client. 10,000 is going to Anshulji. So far as non-resident is concerned, there is no problem. He is getting the same amount. Government is getting its pie of share, which was actually, of course, it is getting a higher pie of share, because had it been 10,000, the government would have only get 20,000, 2,000 rupees. Now, once we are doing the grossing up, the stakes are higher. So this is what has happened in post-amendment and pre-amendment. If you can see the differentiation, now it is 15.68 is the excess tax cost. Otherwise, before pre-amendment, we were sitting on a lever on the higher of 10.92 maximum. Now we are sitting on 21.84 maximum. If you gross up that, it comes to 112 at the pre-time, and post-amendment, it comes to 127. So basically, there is a huge delta of 15.68 as the excess tax cost, which has to be borne by non-resident, resident, whosoever. Generally resident in our case. Yeah, of course, you know, that already said, yeah, of course. I am not, that has already been taken into the calculations. That's just. Sir,
आप उसमें पैन थोड़ी ना डालते हो, पैन कहाँ होगा आपके पास, पैन होगा ही नहीं, तो आप अपनी टीडीएस रिटर्न में डालोगे नहीं, उसको कहाँ बेनिफिट मिलेगा?
ये तो गवर्नमेंट के पास ही है,
और बहुत सारी जगहों पे मैं आपको बताता हूँ, हम काफी पीएसयू वाले मतलब ऐसे क्लाइंट से डील करते हैं जो पीएसयू के साथ काम कर रहे होते हैं। तो जब पीएसयू नेट ऑफ टैक्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है, जैसे सेल हो गया, आपका ओएनजीसी हो गया, ओवीएल हो गए, ये जब भी आपके साथ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करते हैं, बिकॉज ये नीदरलैंड्स का ही केस है, हमारे पास एक क्लाइंट है, वो जब भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करते हैं नेट ऑफ टैक्स होता है। सो उस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में ये लिखा होता है कि जो भी हम टैक्स जमा कराएंगे, आप उसका क्रेडिट नहीं लोगे अपने रिटर्न में, अगर आपने उसका क्रेडिट ले लिया तो आप उसको रिफंड करोगे। तो वो हमसे सर्टिफिकेट मांगते हैं, एक सीए सर्टिफिकेट मांगते हैं कि प्लीज सर्टिफाई कि वेदर यू हैव टेकन दिस क्रेडिट और नॉट। सो वहां पे भी वो चीज को देखना पड़ता है कि कैसे क्रेडिट लिया, अगर आपको क्रेडिट मिल जाता है और उसकी वजह से कोई रिफंड आता है तो यू हैव टू रिफंड इट। सो ये चीजों को आपको कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में भी देखना पड़ेगा कि किस तरीके से, एंड इवन इफ अगर आप अपने इंडियन क्लाइंट को वो कर रहे हो, रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हो, और वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आप ड्राफ्टिंग देख रहे हो, तो probably you can propose these kind of terms and condition कि भाई ठीक है, अगर हम आपको नेट ऑफ टैक्स दे रहे हैं तो you are not supposed to take credit, और अगर आप क्रेडिट लेते हो, इसका रिफंड क्लेम करते हो, तो आप हमें दो नहीं, वहां पे भी ले लेते हैं ना क्रेडिट, हाँ, उसका फॉरेन टैक्स क्रेडिट ले लो,
वहां भी नहीं लेना।
Sir, highest up to 206 AA has been
20%, 206 AA तो almost redundant हो गया।
That's what I'm saying, sir. I will come to that 206 AA in the next slide. It's already written there. आपको उसका grossing up का amount देखिए, it's redundant now.
Yes, ma'am.
The post amendment rate is much higher than 206 AA also. Next slide is of 206 AA only. So as we have already discussed that 206 AA, higher of the three rates are applicable. It is a non-obstinate clause, and it used to say that if NR doesn't have a PAN in India, then higher of the three rates would be applicable. So that is rate specified in the provision of this act, that is 115A, BB, 44, BB, BBB, whatever. Rates or rates in force, as we have already discussed earlier, that is Schedule 1, Part 2 of the Finance Act, or Section 90, whichever is beneficial to the assessee, or rate of 20%. So higher of the three would be deductible under 206 AA. They had given a relaxation in case of where you do not have a PAN to certain category of payments. Subject to that, you have those 4 type of documents available with you: name, address, TRC, and TIN number. So if in case you have all these papers available with you, all these documents available with you, then in that case, the 5 categories now, FTS, royalty, dividend, interest, and capital gain. In that case, you need not, 206 AA will not apply. Now, coming back to the previous slide, as we can already see that 206 AA rate is lesser than the rate which is there in the current post amendment. So 206 AA practically becomes redundant, except for the cases where I think this 100 we are talking of that LC, LD and LD rate. So those three cases, 194 LB, LC and LD rate, still 206 AA may have some say because it is on a subsidized rate. Rest all, most of the cases are, most of the pointers are gone, most of the payments are gone in 206 AA because we already have a higher rate based out in India. And once we are, I will also add one thing more over here, that as per section 115A subclause 5, in case we are filing return, in case we are taking rates of India, that means we are taking the treaty rates. In that case, we are supposed to file return in India. If we are not taking treaty benefit, then we are not supposed to file returns in India. As so far as if we are filing returns at a higher rate, that is 21.84 presently, then we need not file the returns for those 5 categories again. Otherwise, we are supposed to file the returns also for those 5 categories if we are taking the treaty benefit. I will come to that. So now TRC. So the most happening and the hot topic, TRC and 10F. So section 90 subsection 4 says that, you know, an assessee who is a non-resident, he shall only be entitled to any relief subject to that he brings a certificate from his home country, and the certificate has to be from the government of that country. So if he brings that tax residency certificate from the country from which he is a resident, he will get the treaty benefit under section 90. If he doesn't bring this document, then as per law is very clear, you will not get the benefit of treaty. Now, this section was brought into ambit in the year Finance Act 2012. So their memorandum, the reason of bringing this section was that, you know, there were residents, there were non-residents who were claiming the treaty benefit irrespective of being resident of that country. So government had no way to check out that, you know, to plunge that loophole. What they did was that they brought that into the treaty only. So they said that, you know, subsection 90, section 90 subsection 4, you have to bring TRC now to claim the benefit. But in addition to that, it also says that this TRC would not be the final document. It might not be the sufficient condition to claim treaty benefit. That is also written in section 90 subsection 4. So then what is the conclusive proof? Nobody knows. Only the AO knows or the department knows. So we have some case laws which are favoring that when we do not have TRC, can we still claim benefit or not? So we have circular 333, which says that treaty will prevail. This is also there in section 90 subsection 2, which says that provisions of the act will apply which are more beneficial to the assessee, and only section 90 subsection 2A, which is of GAR, which is only the non-obstinate clause in complete 10B chapter in this chapter. The GAR, if there is a GAR, I mean 96, that will only prevail in case 96 will only prevail. Rest all other sections, whichever is more beneficial to the assessee, will prevail other than the GAR.
I think judgment also came sometimes like that TRC is only a document which cannot bypass.
So that is already written in the SCAPS case. So coming to the first, let me come to the Azadi Bachao Andolan, which we are all aware. It's an old case. So there they refer to circular number 789, which says that, you know, once the Mauritius country gives that TRC, it is a conclusive proof that you are a tax resident of that country. You need not check anything. Supreme Court was very clear on that in the case of Azadi Bachao Andolan. Then in the SCAPS industry case came. So in the SCAP industry case, what happened was that TRC was not available. So the assessee said, now what is to be done? He tried to submit few other documents to substantiate and to claim that he will still get the treaty benefit. So it was a Ahmedabad tribunal decision. And then in this case, the tribunal brought out two things that, you know, as I already explained you, section 90 subsection 2, it is more beneficial to the assessee. So this will prevail. It has got no impact on the GAR. So this will prevail. So you can still claim treaty benefit on the basis of SCAP industries. There are two more case laws which were followed by SCAP industries case, that is Ranjit Kumar and, you know, Srinivasan Reddy case. We have lots of issues in TRC which we will discuss now. But as of now, TRC is the conclusive proof. We need to, in most of the cases, to my view, you need to submit TRC. Without that, you will not be able to get treaty benefit. That is the rule of the law as on date.
TRC should be taken every year.
I am coming to that issues.
There is a question on Zoom. Okay, if a treaty benefit is taken and TDS is not deducted, then also required.
I will
file
come to
ITR.
that. I will come to that also. So TRC. Now, first is the timing of the TRC. So we say that, at the time of, as we already know, 195 says at the time payment is to be deducted, TDS is to be deducted at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. So now, what time the TRC is to be? Technically, at the time of deduction, TRC should be there. So for example, invoice, we get the invoice on say 15th of February, we deduct TDS on 31st of March, and we make the payment in the next year, year 2 on April 15th. So we are deducting tax on 31st March of the previous year. We should have the TRC because we are deducting tax as on date on 31st March. So TRC should pertain of the previous year technically. Sir, I will let me close it, then I will listen to you. So then this is the position of the day. Now, if the payment, now the other view which can be taken, which generally AO might take, I am not sure about it, that the payment is done in the next year. Payment was done in the next year. So should we have TRC for the next year? Because actually the remittance fluid in the next year. And there is a specific question in 15 CBCA whether TRC was available. We say yes or no. We have to tick that, yes or no. Now we are making the remittance in the next year because 15th April has come. Deduction done in the previous year. So are we saying we are supposed to see that on the payment basis or not? Both views. Technically speaking, we are correct if we take the TRC on year 1, but it is always conservative. It is always good if you take TRC for both the years. No harming taking TRC for both the years if we can readily provide you.
कैलेंडर ईयर का है ये
अभी सर उस पे भी आ रही हूँ, आपके कैलेंडर ईयर पे भी आ रही हूँ सर, देखिए उस पे लिखा हुआ है क्या?
By the time one financial year ends and we are making payment at the beginning of next financial year.
जी सर.
TRC may not be available.
Sir, वो भी मैं बता रही हूँ सर. So now payment is not of regular nature. So we have two types of people. One is that, group companies where there are regular payments going, and one type of payment which are not regular in nature. So, generally with the group companies, when we know that there are ongoing TRC will come in 2 months, 3 months, we are aware of that. We already have TRCs of the previous year, and we have also have the applications filed with the respective jurisdictions with us. So in that case, we can take a conservative view and we can issue a certificate. No harm. Of course, law is very stringent, so that view can be taken. Now we are saying that calendar year versus fiscal year. So we say that, most of the places, it works for Singapore or, for Singapore or USA, we have calendar years. For some of the countries, we have fiscal year, financial year. UK works on a financial year. India works on a financial year. So now what happened is that there is a gap of those 3 months, 9 months plus 3 months. So one view is that, you can issue proportionate certificate. I mean, TDS on which the TRC is available, you give TRC treaty benefit, and on which TRC is not available, you don't give treaty benefit. That is one way to look at it. Other option is that you deduct on the basis of that, you deduct on the basis that, maybe next year the TRC will come, or the previous year TRC can be seen because those 3 months were already emitted in the previous year. So that can also be considered. But for the future payments, of course, TRC should be in place. Now we are saying that country of resident doesn't issue only TRC. For example, Morocco doesn't issue TRC. Now what is to be done? So in that case, again, we will have to take the help of SCAP's Industries case. We will have to ask him for other documentation, and we will have to place our case on the basis of that. But that doesn't mean that he gives you a VAT registration or a certificate of incorporation or a GST registration. There has to be proper documents which can help you. And in addition to that, a declaration from a non-resident that he is a tax resident of that country. Now, TRC is not in English language. Now what to do? See, Google Baba, we all know that is the best way to change. That is one way. The second option is that you can ask your non-resident itself that kindly give me an English version of it, duly notarized by their government, in their jurisdiction. Third option is that even if that is not worked out, you come to India, you go to an Indian, there are interpreters sitting in, I think, Habitat or
Approved
somewhere.
Translators are
Yeah,
there.
so the translators are there, approved translators are there, you go to them and you get your version changed into English version. This is specifically where the stakes are very high. It is better to have TRC in your version.
See, by Google, I just want to add one thing.
Yeah.
By Google, we can understand that what is there in the TRC, but it is always recommended that you get some official translation.
Correct.
Right? वो आपको उस टाइम पे प्रोसेस करनी है तो सिर्फ उसको देख लो, समझ लो कि हाँ ठीक है वही चीजें हैं. But for official records, please, even at a later point of time, get an official translation done.
Correct.
मैम
Yeah.
छोटी सी चीज,
Yeah.
जब हम 15 CSEB भरते हैं उसमें टेंटेटिव डेट ऑफ पेमेंट आ रहा है.
Are you, sir?
नहीं, मैं ये
हाँ.
कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि किसी भी वजह से बैंकर की गलती की वजह से हमारे कुछ मतलब जो बंदा पेमेंट कर रहा है उसकी वजह से वो पेमेंट डेफर होती जा रही है. हमारा 15 CSEB टाइम पे बन गया है. अगर मान लो उस टाइम से वो TRC क्रॉस कर जाता है, मतलब उस टाइम पे मेरे पास TRC का वो बेनिफिट नहीं है, तो पेमेंट से तो नहीं है ना रिलेटेड, 15 CSEB से रिलेट होगा ना.
हाँ सर, I mean that has got nothing to do with deferred payment. अगर आपका हो गया, but deferred payment में आपने डेट चेंज कर दिया और ईयर बदल गया और TRC नहीं है, तो then again we are coming to the square one.
Sir,
We are again
वैसे
back
भी
to square one.
TRC आपको कंसीडर करना है on the date of deduction, not on the date of payment.
You're
So
already
date
saying
of deduction तो सेम ही रहेगी ना, क्योंकि वो तो आप पहले कर ही चुके हो. Date of deduction तो चेंज होनी नहीं है, तो date of deduction का TRC है तो सब चलेगा.
technically speaking, as I already reiterated, that date of deduction should be considered, but you know there are we can also consider date of payment.
Translation अपना हर छोटे-छोटे केस में भी translation.
That's what I'm saying, where the stakes are high. Please, the best option is go to the approved translator or ask your
प्रैक्टिकली अगर हम देखें जो आज के डेट में हम जितने सर्टिफिकेट्स इशू कर रहे हैं,
Normally
तो
this-
इट्स बेटर टू टेक एन अप्रूव्ड ट्रांसलेटर का वो लेकर के अपने लैंग्वेज में रख लें. फिर इंस्टीट्यूट हमसे पूछने आती है सर.
correct.
एक हमें वो एंगल भी देखना है.
Correct. One thing more is that in some of the TRCs, date is mentioned. For example, Australia treaty, if you see Australia TRC, so it starts from say 1st July, 1st June, and it ends their financial year ends like this. So there is a specific date mentioned, and there is no closer date in some of the TRCs. So it is an open-ended TRC. So in that case, we can claim at least up to our financial year. That is one position we can take. But the other position is again that, you know, our financial year has changed and their financial year has not changed. So then again, you know, you have both the views. Sir, but the best option is that we should have TRC in place of the year in which TDS is deducted, and more better if we have TRC in the year where the payment is made. You know, government and the department can challenge you anytime. So if that is possible, we can have TRCs for both the years, especially for group companies we already have. When there are regular nature of payments, then TRC is already in place. Now, I'll give you one interesting view of this TRC through UAE tax residency. I happen to write a chapter in this on the residency itself. So there I come across this interesting thought that what happened was that as per DTAA, UAE, India UAE is a classical example of DTAA. So as per DTAA of India UAE, it says that the resident, we have divided the residency into two: legal persons and the individual residents. So far as legal persons are concerned, the company which is incorporated in UAE and which is managed and controlled wholly in UAE is the tax resident as per the treaty. That is what India UAE treaty says. Now coming to the Cabinet Resolution 85 of 2023, which just came on September 9th only, I think last year it came, and they have defined the resident who all are they have designed the new tax residency rule and the tax resident as defined by that says that incorporated or formed in UAE or the resident as per applicable laws. So this, then the third is FTA, that is Federal Tax Authority of TRC user guide. That was previous. This is latest. So first slide is latest tax residency rules. As per DTAA, we have already seen this. Now coming similarly to the individual rules. Individual, we say that as per the treaty, if you cross 183 days in a calendar year, then you are a tax resident of UAE. So far as your cabinet resolution says, it gives you few categories. In the first category itself, it's just says that if your financial interests or center of vital interests were there in UAE, you can claim treaty residency, irrespective of the fact that you have not even stayed a single day there. That is what the rule says. So now the question comes, if that person, non-resident from a UAE person comes to India and gives you a TRC based on whatever rules are there, are we going to take it or not? What should our role be? So now the point is that, strictly speaking, we should have the TRC as per DTAA. That is one thing. But unfortunately or fortunately, we are unable to check how to do that because, things are not beyond our control. So at max, we can take a declaration from that person that you were a tax resident of UAE for the concerned period. And declaration is a bona fide rule after that 194 RS come into play, because it says take a declaration for everything. So from there, we can draw that line that you take a declaration in case of UAE, where you feel that he was actually not a tax resident or he did not stay for 183 days there. And still he has got a DTAA, still he has got a TRC. So at least you will save your interest. The stakes might be high, so you have to be very cautious and your due diligence should be good. This is just a thought. Of course, it is not there in a law, in our law. Coming to 10F. So Form 10F, as we know that it's again another hot topic, which is recently, barrier to benefits or DTAA, that is what we call it. So section 94 was placed. Similarly, at that time, section 90 subsection 5 was also placed. It said that if that TRC document doesn't have all the information available, then you have to get 10F. So this is rule with 21 AB, which says that status, nationality, TRC, tax identification, tax period, and address of the assessee should be there. So if all these things are in place, then you need not have a 10F. Otherwise, you need to have a 10F as an additional document also to claim treaty benefit. 10F was earlier, when it was brought into ambit in 2013, it was a physical 10F only. It was you used to take a declaration from the assessee, from the non-resident. He used to sign it and he used to get it. And on the basis of that, you used to issue 15 CBCA. There was no problem in that. Now, going forward, the 10F has its own journey. So now from manual, it has come to digitalization also. So for the digitalization, the first, which was out of the box, suddenly they introduced that 10F has to be digitalized. And on 16th of July, they placed a notification saying that you need to file an online 10F going forward. Then after few months, again, they said that, in December 12, they again said that, this is valid. This digital 10F has relaxation for digital 10F has been given up to 31st March. And now going forward, it is saying that for another 6 months, the digital 10F is relaxed and you can still issue manual 10F. But who? But who all have to issue manual 10F? Or who all are out of that 10F? So now they are saying that NR not having a PAN and not required to obtain PAN. So they are saying two categories, NR who is not having PAN and NR who are not required to have PAN. So if these two cumulative conditions are satisfied, then only the relaxation is there. NR not having PAN and NR not required to have PAN. So yeah.
not
cumulative conditions.
Cumulative, मतलब together.
NR नहीं भी, उसके बाद PAN भी नहीं था और उसको PAN चाहिए भी नहीं. He is not required to have PAN under the income tax act.
मान लीजिए ऐसा होता है, मैं जस्ट एक चीज ऐड करता हूँ. मान लीजिए आपको रिक्वायर्ड नहीं था, बट आपने पैन ले रखा है. तो अगर आपने पैन ले रखा है तो आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक देंगे.
हाँ, correct. Agreed. So now, saying that, so now what we are saying is that he is required to have PAN. He did not have the PAN and he is required to have PAN. If both the cumulative conditions are satisfied, then he is supposed to file that 10F digitally. No relaxation is. Sir, bata do. So now what they have done is, how will this come into play? So digitally what they have to do is that non-resident has to log in through the income tax portal. How will he log in? Through his PAN number. That is the only way. So he is going to log in through his PAN, income tax portal, through his PAN, and then he's going to digitally sign through his DSC and then issue a 10F. So two problems. The digital issue is there. He has to have PAN at the first place instead when he is going to issue a tenor, and then he also needs to have a DSC.
Yes.
So now, after that, he can issue a tenor and he can claim the benefit, treaty benefit. So he was presumably, if we are asking for tenor, we understand that he is chargeable to tax. Then only tenor requirement has come. Otherwise, tenor requirement in most of the cases would have not come only. In case it is chargeable to tax and we are taking a treaty benefit, then only TNF is coming into play. So now we say that these two are the practical issues which has to be looked into. Now, third point. For example, let us take TRC of India USA. So India USA treaty has 2 pages of TRC. The first pager consists of only the information, relevant information, name of the assessee and all that information is there on the first page. The second page contains all these information, status, nationality, everything. So when you are asking a TRC from a US, you ask for both the pages. So in that case, TNF is not required because TRC itself has all that. So we have, yes sir. यूएसए के अंदर 2 पेज का आता है, वो हमेशा 1 पेज ही आपको देता है. आप उसको कॉल करके बोलोगे कि भैया मुझे दोनों पेज दे जो आईआरएस ने इशू करे हैं, तो ही विल गिव यू द बोथ द पेजेस सर.
यूएस के साथ तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम वैसे ही सॉल्व हो गई.
But frankly, I have never seen.
Sir, I don't.
वो एक पेज का ही होता है.
हाँ sir, that is what I'm trying to say. It is always 1 pager, but if you will see, US has 2 pager TRC. You will have to specifically tell your non-resident client or assessee that, you know, we need the complete TRC, complete tax residency certificate. No, it is a 2 pager. No? Like we have 2 pages, it's a 2 pager. Now he will only give you 1 or for whatever reason. I don't know how, whether there are 2 separate pages or 1, but if you ask them, they will give you both the pages. So the second page has all this information.
Then no need of that.
Yeah, so no need to file 10F. Practically no need to file 10F in that case where TRC has all the information. That is what the law says, that you need to file. But in that case, take a declaration. Again, you have to take a declaration from the assessee saying that, you know, you need not file 10F because of all the information already available in your TRC document. That is one thing. And plus, even you are supposed to take a declaration when he is actually not required to file 10F. When both the cumulative conditions are fulfilled. That is, he doesn't have a PAN and he's not required to have 10F. So then again, you have to take a declaration from the concerned non-resident assessee that, you know, 10F is not required. That means he is not supposed to file or give 10F.
All the information is that 6 information.
Yeah, these
Name, address, and
correct. These 5 categories. Now just to relate it with the earlier slide of 206 AA, again those 5 information which are written here are the same information which we are giving in 206 AA. That information is almost same. So in that case, if it is saying TRC, it is saying name, address, TIN, relaxation, TIN, all these 4 items. And the same information is there in 10F also. So if you have that, then you know you are out already. You don't need to do anything extra in 206 AA because you have that information in 10F, 10F or, you know, TRC wherever. So now coming to 10F again. So rule 21A subsection 1 says that you need to have all those 5 information, and rule subsection 21AB2 says that if all the information is already there into TRC, then you need not have 10F. That is when we are talking of example of US TRC. So if all the information is already there in the TRC, more or less, then you need not need to file a 10F as per the plain reading of the section. Of course, there might be views here and there, but that is what they say. Now, benefit under treaty we are talking of. So what would be the impact? So there are 5 major benefits generally.
Just, one small query. If we all these things 10F, TRC, everything we are taking if the income is chargeable to tax, and we want to claim the treaty benefit.
Correct.
In the first instance, income is not chargeable to tax. Then how do you prove to the department that this was a non-resident? We still require some of these documents.
No. So
Let us say I've made a sale of goods, right? Simple sale of transaction goods.
I am coming to that.
And it's not.
I am
taxable.
coming to that. There it is written. So benefit under treaty. So we are saying that, you know, there is a make available clause. We are saying that, you know, software, shrink wrapped software payments are, not taxable under TTAA because of engineering analysis case. Then we are saying that, because of indirect transfer, non-resident to non-resident, because of reasons, it is not liable to tax. Then we are saying capital on the sale of, grandfathering cases in case of Mauritius, it is not taxable. And then we are saying that purchase or import of goods which come under SCP in India because of the threshold of that 2 crore or the user threshold, it is chargeable to tax in India, but because of treaty, it is not chargeable to tax. So now what has to be done? 10F has to be taken. We have no other way. We have to take 10F because it is chargeable to tax in the domestic law. Although we are claiming treaty benefit, so 10F is for what? For claiming treaty benefit only. 90 subsection 4, 90 subsection 5 has been brought into ambit only for claiming treaty benefit. So there is no way out, even for importing, especially in the case of SCP, which I'm sure he must have discussed yesterday. So on this, if there is a import of goods, the threshold is only 2 crores, and I am sure we are making machinery of 100 crores, 500 crores, whatever amount, it is chargeable to tax. You are supposed to deduct TDS if he is not issuing you 10M. That means he is supposed to take a PAN to go through his login and that. Of course, there are two views on that also, that up to 30th September relaxation is for what? If we are taking a 10F digitally today. So there are views where the chartered accountant or the company is not are still taking manual 10F and going away with it. There are views where 10F is to be filed on day one on the chargeability basis. Today also, even the relaxation is not there because the relaxation gives you 2 cumulative conditions only. Only on the relaxation is only on the fulfillment of those 2 cumulative conditions.
And if you would see the notification, itself says it is partial relaxation. Yeah, it says that it's a partial relaxation. So we still have arguments in support of not giving 10F, then I will come to that. So it says that, if you read section 139A, read with rule 114B, then you say that PAN is NR is not required to obtain PAN only if the treaty is favorable. That is 139A, read with rule 114B. Then you have another notification. This notification was issued under rule 131 and read with section 295. So this notification particularly was not issued under subsection 90, subsection 5. So can we take that plea that, this notification which itself is issued it doesn't fall under 90 subclause 5 only. That is another argument which we can take, not to issue 10F, not to get 10F. Third is, of course, Vienna Convention law, which says that, we in good faith and treaties to be interpreted in good faith, and therefore the domestic legislation cannot override tax treaty. That is one third argument which we can take. Fourth argument, we have already taken the SCAP industries. Again, for the TRC, we are saying that SCAP, in case of TRC only, SCAP industries rule was there. So if we go to the, if we are in litigation, then we still will get the benefit from the department as we assume. We presumably assume on this. Then this pointer has already been discussed that in case that rate is 20%, then if you are taking the treaty benefit, then you are supposed to file return in India. I think this is all for 10F. Coming to 15 CB and CA. So this is the crux of the day and the most important topic which we are looking forward. So section 195 subsection 6. In section 195
and who will check that?
Relaxation for 5 is not there. If relaxation for 5 payments is there in 115A subsection B, but if you are taking a treaty benefit, even for those, I think 5 categories, relaxation is there.
For filing
of return. नहीं, I think 115A subsection 5 में तो सबको फाइल करनी पड़ेगी.
115 वाले जो है उन्हीं को है. बाकी तो सबको है.
That's what I'm saying.
115A में अगर आप उस रेट से डिडक्ट कर रहे हो तभी एग्जेम्पशन है,
अदरवाइज
गवर्नमेंट
Government का काम है. No obligation on us, na? Who is issuing?
नहीं. We have no obligation, sir. It is their obligation there. If they are.
आप जब TDS काट रहे होते हो तो आपको अज्यूम करना पड़ता है, अगर आपने 20% पे काट लिया 20% पॉइंट समथिंग जो कि TDS इसका रेट है 115 का, तो यू कैन फेयरली अज्यूम कि भाई रिटर्न उसी पे आपको तो देखना भी नहीं है कि रिटर्न फाइल करनी है कि नहीं। आपका ये है कि आपने इस रेट पे डिक्लेरेशन काट लिया तो फॉर यू दे आर नॉट टेक बैक।
डेक्लेरेशन देंगे तो स्पेसिफिक फॉर्मेट है कोई।
They will go with their IRS has to issue.
ओके
हमको क्या करना है? हमको तो उनको बोलना है हमें TRC दे दो.
टीआरसी डेक्लेरेशन
Declaration तो आप you will have to prepare it on your own. Declaration we have to give it. Or they can give it 10 वाला declaration बोलना.
हाँ
या नहीं.
टीआरसी के साथ में जो डेक्लेरेशन देना है।
PE declaration.
No PE declaration.
नो भी
No PE declaration तो you know it's
वो
a
अलग
standard
चीज है, ये
format.
अलग, दोनों अलग
That is got nothing to do.
दोनों अलग डॉक्यूमेंट है।
That is a
आगे
separate
भी डेक्लेरेशन हो रहा है ना कि डेक्लेरेशन
declaration saying that 10F is not required. He has to write it to whomsoever it may concern that 10F TRC is not applied to me. I am not a resident. I am a resident of that country. That he has to write. It is similar to no P.
सिंपल सेक्रेटरी में
तो देगा आपने sign कर. He is not required to file 10F, so he is supposed to give that letter to whomsoever it may concern. He can give you that this is to certify so and so. I am not supposed to take PAN because I am not chargeable to tax in this section, and therefore 10F is not required for my whatever simple 2 lines he has to give. So now coming to 15 CBCA. So 195 subsection 6. So 195 subsection 1 said that TDS has to be deducted, and only 195 subsection 1 only place thrust on the person that the TDS has to be deducted if the sum is chargeable to tax. Section 195 subsection 6 says that irrespective of the fact that whether you have deducted TDS in 195 subsection 1 or not, you are supposed to furnish that information of payment of that sum when you are remitting that payment, remitting that funds outside India in prescribed form 15 CB and CA. So basically it says that that irrespective whether there is any TDS liability under 195 subsection 1, irrespective of the fact, you have to deduct TDS under 195. You have to give that information to the department, remit that information, issue 15 CB CA irrespective of 195 subsection 1, except for, there are some few categories which are excluded from this. Except for that, you have to declare that to the department. Now, what was the reason of bringing these? So the major reason of this was that it was a mechanism, information mechanism to ensure that, all the TDS has been placed and all which are not deducting TDS, what is the reason behind that? And to ensure that all the information by and large is captured by the department without TDS, with TDS, both. Sir, I will come to that, sir. I will come to that. So now there is a specific list of 33 remittances, which is excluded from the category, which is excluded, and where 15 CA is not to be issued. So we have 15 CA is not to be issued. 15 CB CA both are not to be issued.
रूल ही नहीं लगता ना सर, वो जो लिस्ट है पूरे रूल को ओवरराइड करती है.
Sir, there are 33 categories. Rule 37 BB lays down that 15 CA has to be issued. There are 33 categories in addition to the payment made through LRS and capital account transactions. They are exempt from issuing 15 CA itself. Can you show the list of categories to them? We have.
बस एक मिनट में ये बोलना चाह रहा था, उसमें जैसे जब हम रूल को पढ़ते हैं ना, वो कंफ्यूजन इसलिए आता है जब आप उसको पूरा पढ़ोगे. रूल 1, रूल 2, ठीक है, रूल 1.
So you can see.
यस मैम, एक मिनट. रूल 3 में ये एक्सक्लूजन है सारे.
Correct.
और रूल 3 इंटायर रूल 1, 2 को वो कर देता है,
ओवरराइड
कर देता है. इसलिए 15 CACB की वहां कोई भी रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं. अब उसमें प्रैक्टिकली ये होता है कि बैंक
नहीं मानती है.
वो practically is a different story. So these are 33 purpose codes in both the slides. So these are the categories which is exempt under Rule 37 BB subclause 3, which is already written there, and plus whatever payments you are making to LRS and capital account transactions are already written here. So in this case, no 15 CB, no 15 CA is required. So far, technicality is concerned. Now coming to 15 CA, first let me explain how 15 CA works. So there are 4 parts of 15 CA: Part A, Part B, Part D, and Part C. So Part A is where payment is chargeable to tax. It is less than 5 lakhs during that year. It is qua entity or qua person. So for instance, in the first tranche, he paid 2 lakhs. In the second tranche, he again shifted 2 lakhs, no tax, no 15, only part A is to be filed. In the third tranche, he shared 2 lakhs more. So that the whole amount has crossed 5 lakhs. It is some chargeable to tax. Then you have to come to part C, where 15 CB is to be issued, even on that amount where tax was not deducted earlier. Because the sum was chargeable to tax up to 6 lakhs. Up to 5 lakhs, parts A, nothing doing. Qua entity, qua person.
Either of the two, किसी का भी अगर
Qua person. Basically, what I'm saying is that qua company or qua person. That's what I'm saying. हाँ जी सर, 6 लाख पे साढ़ा कटेगा, 2 लाख पे अब आपको तो पूरा करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि आपकी एक्सीड हो गई वो 5 लाख से नहीं. जब तक 5 लाख था, you can play, you can go to part A. सर लास्ट वाली ट्रांचे में पूरा का पूरा TDS कट जाएगा. You are right that इंटरेस्ट की लायबिलिटी आएगी, बिल्कुल आएगी. Yes sir, I agree sir. But law has given no window for that sir. Law has given us no window. Correct sir.
Then you have to deduct entire amount.
Yes sir.
Interest is not.
Should not be zero.
Sir, interest is there sir.
We can deduct this on the first.
Yeah, you can deduct if you are aware. Then
We can file for part B. Just to part नहीं है ना, 5 लाख से नीचे.
हाँ, 5 लाख से नीचे TDS नहीं काटना. सम चार्जेबल टू टैक्स होने के बाद भी पार्ट ए चला जाएगा. 15 CB is not required. Sorry. What I'm saying is sum chargeable to tax तो day 1 पे ही है. What I'm saying is part A is only to be issued. 15 CB is not to be issued. Sorry, my bad. CDS तो day 1 पे ही कट रहा है.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that for the purposes of 15 CA, only part A has to be issued. CA certificate is not required. That is what the intention is. 6 लाख पे अब आप चाहे 2 दिन बाद काटो, 3 दिन बाद काटो, 2 लाख पे काटो या ना काटो, because maybe it is not taxable only in that year, or it is taxable, doesn't matter. Part A has to be issued. Some chargeable to tax है तो obviously TDS कटेगा. That you have to see. That has got nothing to do with the issuance of 15 CBC.
CA certificate 6 lakhs.
5 लाख से ऊपर होगा तो 15 CB इशू हो जाएगा. नहीं, obviously you are making the remittance of that exact payment, so that remittance has to go.
हमें पता है कि पूरे साल में 5 लाख से 10 लाख जाएगा, तो हम स्टार्टिंग से ही फर्स्ट पेमेंट में पार्ट डी भरने,
बिल्कुल,
पार्ट ए भरने,
Part B, part C for 15 CB.
पार्ट सी. हाँ, पहले फर्स्ट टाइम पे हम पार्ट सी भरना शुरू कर देंगे क्योंकि मुझे पता है पूरे साल में 10 लाख जाएगा. अगर अनसर्टेनिटी के 4 लाख है तब हम पार्ट ए में जाएंगे.
Correct.
Yes,
you're right.
मैम अगर 6 लाख हो जाता और हम डिफरेंशियल अमाउंट का जैसे 2 और 2 4 उसके बाद जब 15 CB भरेंगे तो उसमें अमाउंट हम केवल डिफरेंशियल वाला 2 लेंगे या पीछे का भी रिपोर्ट करेंगे?
पीछे का भी रिपोर्ट
पूरा रिपोर्ट करेंगे.
So now,
यू मीन टू से 15 CB
no,
जो होगा
no sir, 15 CB CA अगर आप उस पर्टिकुलर डेट पे इशू कर रहे हैं तो जितना आपने अमाउंट रेमिट करा है आप उतना ही देंगे. पुराना कैसे देंगे आप, क्योंकि आप ऑलरेडी उसका पार्ट ए इशू कर चुके. अब आपके पास 2 लाख रुपए है एज ऑन डेट. TDS आप पूरा काट रहे हैं, आपके पास चॉइस नहीं है क्योंकि आपको TDS तो काटना ही था, या आपने पहले नहीं काटा तो आप काट रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ वॉट एवर रीजन. 15 CB आप इशू कर रहे हैं, बट आप रेमिटेंस तो उतनी ही करेंगे. यू कैन नॉट रेमिट विच यू हैव ऑलरेडी रेमिटेड. नो, दैट नीड नॉट बी. So now coming to part B. So part B is when there is a certificate, lower TDS certificate, 195 subsection 2, 195 subsection 3. In that case, lower TDS certificate is issued by the department. So in that case, again, 15 CB is not required to be issued. You issue part B of 15 CA, even if the amount exceeds 5 lakhs, because we have obtained a lower TDS certificate from the department as per 195 subsection 2, 195 subsection 3 or 197. CA certificate not required. Part B will show. Now part D. So part D, where payment is not chargeable to tax at all. Again, CA certificate not required. For example, reimbursement of expenses is there. So in the reimbursement of expenses is there, agriculture income is there, gift to a relative is concerned. Part D. CA certificate not required, payment is not chargeable to tax. So part D goes. Now coming to part C. So whenever there is any sum chargeable to tax and the amount exceeds 5 lakh rupees, then part C 15 CB has to be issued.
5 lakh is per resident. Just to be sure.
Qua resident. Co-resident. So what?
Non-resident.
Co-non-resident, sorry, co-non-resident, co-non-resident, co-assessee, I would say rather. So now we are saying that part A up to 5 lakhs not issued. If he crosses that limit, some chargeable to tax. Part C, he has to issue 15 CB in this. The amount of remittance that will be reflected here will be only 2 lakh rupees. Obviously, because 4 lakhs he already issued in part A. So whatever balance amount he is reflecting, he will issue that. But so far as TDS portion is concerned, there are practical views that, you know, the whole liability can be reflected here if that amount is not deducted earlier. If you are deducting the complete amount here, if you are not deducting complete TDS now, and if it is also done in the proportionate basis, then, you know, only that proportionate amount would be reflected here. Next.
15 CB is required only for this part C.
Part C. Next slide. So now coming to the contents of Form 15 CB.
In the previous form, there was a reference to penalty for 1 lakh. Now this 1 lakh is what?
Core transaction,
A transaction.
per transaction.
If there are small transactions of say.
If you do not file 15 CBCA, there is a penalty of 1 lakh rupees, even if the transaction pertains of only of 10,000.
It's levied.
सर ऐसा नहीं कि आपने एक बार 1 लाख रुपए दे दिया और आपने कहा आप साल भर कोई भी 15 CBCA इशू नहीं करना. We have to issue.
Actually levied or in practice or
सर आज नहीं लेवी हो रही है तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि इसमें कोई टाइमलाइन तो है नहीं. टाइमलाइन है
नहीं,
कोई टाइमलाइन नहीं. 10 साल बाद आएंगे, बोलेंगे आपने वो उस साल में गलत किया.
इतने नंबर ऑफ नहीं दिए थे.
हाँ लिटरली मैं बोल रहा हूँ.
271(1) I will come to it. I think
penalties for 15 CA or CB.
I think it is for
CA सर्टिफिकेट में है वो, और ये सर्टिफिकेट
जो रेलेवेंट फॉर्म फाइल होने थे वो फाइल नहीं हुए तो पेनल्टी.
Including CA.
I think it is
वो
for both.
195 सबसेक्शन 6 में ये रिपोर्टिंग की रिक्वायरमेंट है. उस रिपोर्टिंग की रिक्वायरमेंट में ही ये दोनों फॉर्म्स प्रिस्क्राइब्ड हैं.
तो 15 CB के अगर नॉन कंप्लायंस है तो CA के ऊपर पेनल्टी लगेगी. अगर CA किया तब तो ऐसे
नहीं सीए के ऊपर क्यों लगेगी? आपने नहीं किया तो मतलब आप कैसे आ गए भाई? किसी से भी कराएगा पेनल्टी तो एसएससी के ऊपर ही लगेगी ना.
ठीक है.
ये भी तो कैसे हुआ?
10 के ऊपर कैसे आ गई? मुझे क्या लेना?
नहीं लगेगा, सब सही करो.
Filing delay इसलिए उसलिए for example I missed it.
We will come to that. सर आपका कोई जुगाड़ हो तो मुझे भी बता दीजिए. नहीं सर,
वो है ना अनकल्पेबल माइंड, पेनल्टी में तो वही लिखेंगे हर जगह.
so coming to the at least सर अगर आप रॉन्ग इन्फॉर्मेशन देंगे तो चार्टेड अकाउंटेंट को 10,000 रुपए की पेनल्टी है
वो
सर.
10,000 वाली अलग है.
अगर रॉन्ग इन्फॉर्मेशन फर्निश करेंगे.
वो बताओ 10,000 का खर्चा मिलेगा फर्म में?
नहीं, वो डिसअलाउड. So coming to the contents of 15 CB. So 15 CB is divided into two portions, part A and part B. So part A has just, you know, the name and address of the beneficiary of the remittance. Here we are not talking of the beneficial owner, we are talking only of the payer. So all the details of the payer has to go in this part A. Coming to part B. So part B, country to which remittance is made. So there is a drop down menu. You can choose the country to which remittance is made. Currency, again there is a drop down menu. You can choose the currency, whichever currency is there, you will choose a drop down menu. Amount payable in foreign currency and in Indian currency. Indian currency, there is no problem. You can write the amount. So far as foreign currency is concerned, Rule 26, SBI TT BR rate, buying rate would be applicable. Now, how to get that? So far as SBI TT buying rate is there, it is not available on the normal website of the SBI rate. But if you go to the Forex SBI TT, Forex website of the SBI rate, that SBI TT BR rate is available.
हिस्ट्री हिस्ट्री मतलब जनरली जो देखा है वो एक या दो
करंट वाली अवेलेबल होती है, प्रीवियस का आई डोंट नो, आर्चीव्स में चेक करना.
that is on the paid subscription.
No, yeah, but current rate is available. You can every day take a screenshot and keep it with you.
नहीं तो मैडम से बात करना.
वो है, इसके अलावा तो मैं
Plus, I will tell you, in case you are unable to get for whatever reasons SBI TT buying rate, though that is the rule of the law as per Rule 26, then you can go to an XCN rate. which is higher than this rate, or you can go to RBI reference rate.
और जनरली क्या होता है, आप ये बैंक से ही मांग लो, जो भी आपका बैंक ये ट्रांसफर कर रहा है उस बैंक से ही मांग लो कि भाई आपका अपना रेट बता दो, वही लिख लो, वो एक्सेप्ट कर लो.
So on the date of deduction, whatever rate is applicable, that would be the rate, SBI TT buying rate, not the selling rate.
मतलब पेमेंट बाद में जाता है तो डिफरेंस आ जाएगा.
सर बिल्कुल आ जाएगा फॉरेक्स केस लॉ,
ऑन द डेट ऑफ डिडक्शन का रेट मिलेगा,
बिल्कुल.
ना कि ऑन द डेट ऑफ पेमेंट.
हाँ, so रूल से
मैम यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा प्रैक्टिकल चैलेंज ये आता है कि वो बैंकर मानते नहीं है,
हाँ,
क्योंकि वो पेमेंट आज जा रही है तो
वो
वो
आज का
पेमेंट
रेट
आपको
मंगवाते हैं
वो
क्या?
आज
सर
का
हम अपनी बुक्स में एक्स रिकॉर्ड पे एक्स रेट पे बुक कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद हम पेमेंट पे वाई पे कर रहे हैं, सो जो डिफरेंस है फॉरेक्स में आ जाता है, जनरली यही होता है. That's what we
बट
do.
उस पे ये इशू है, वो एक अलग डिबेटेबल
हाँ.
इशू है कि उस पे टीडीएस अलग से कटना
कटाना
चाहिए
है
कि
कि
नहीं
नहीं
कटना
कटना
है.
But we consider
कंपनी टेक मंथली रेट फ्रॉम बैंक में, है ना.
बट नहीं, आप मान लीजिए आपने 31
Correct.
मार्च को बुक कर दिया था, अब आप पेमेंट कर रहे हो 4 महीने बाद, तब क्या करोगे? वो वाले वहां पे फॉरेक्स का डिफरेंस आ जाता है.
हाँ वही.
So now coming to the IFSC code,
Amount payable is a gross amount or after?
I will come to that. Let me come to that gross figure, then I will explain you about. So far, just to explain it here itself, so amount payable would be, in case of Anshul ji, it will be 12,500. If it is net of taxes, that means TDS is deducted, no grossing is done, then 10,000 rupees. So if I am making gross payment, that means I am taking payment net of taxes. I have grossed up, then the grossed up amount would come here. 12,500 in the case of Anshul ji, as explained. Otherwise, it would be 10,000 rupees.
Amount on which TDS is deducted.
If the TDS is directly deducted.
जिसपे TDS कट रहा है,
जिस पे TDS काट रहे हो वो यहाँ
वो
डालो.
amount है.
ठीक है. So next is the bank account. So
That account is for
बेनिफिशियरी.
of the payer.
payer.
So IFSC code, name of the bank, branch, BSR code, whatever, and the name of the authorized dealer. Now the proposed date of remittance. So now,
इसमें एक इशू आता है क्रेडिट कार्ड है तो वो भी आता है.
सर आ रही हूँ सर, आ रही हूँ सर, एरर्स पे भी आऊंगी, कंसर्न्स पे भी आऊंगी, रुक जाइए, पहले फॉर्म तो डिस्कस कर लें. So proposed date of remittance. So we have proposed date of remittance. Say generally what we do is that we say the invoice is say of 15th of Feb. In our example, 31st March, TDS is deducted. Payment is made on say 15th of April. Now he has come to us. So he says that I will be making the payment on 15th of April going forward, and he has come to us on 10th April only, saying that. So then we give him a window of proposed date of between 5 to 15 days, so that our 15 CB is valid for that time. Otherwise, if the proposed date is before he could actually make the payment, because of whatever reasons or circumstances he is into the position and he is not able to make the payment, so we give him a window of say 15 to 20 days in the proposed date of payment itself, proposed date of remittance itself, and then he can issue a 15, he can generate the form as per his comfort during those 10-15 days window which is there.
अगर उस बीच में उसने जनरेट नहीं किया तो वो
फिर we will have to again issue a 15 CB.
invalid हो जाएगा.
हाँ, proposed date अगर गड़बड़ हो गई या proposed date निकल गई, then we will have to reissue. There's no other way.
10 to 15 days.
Until unless वो withdrawal का option है and all that.
वो डिपेंड करता है, आप क्लाइंट से बात करके करें तो ज्यादा
हाँ.
अच्छा है.
You will have to check with him and then.
बहुत ज्यादा लंबा ले लेते हो तो वो फॉरेक्स का डिफरेंस आ जाता है.
हाँ. So generally 7 to 10 days is the standard time which you can give them. Nature of remittance. So now nature of remittance, there are 64 categories which are there. Go to this slide number 23. So these are the list of nature of remittance. You have to be very careful by selecting the nature of remittance. For example, there is say on 47 there is royalty, and on then 54 I think there is a software payment, software license, that is on 51. So now we say that, you know, is it a shrinkware software payment or is it a royalty? You have to be very cautious. You have to write the correct nature of remittance, because some chargeable or TDS will apply accordingly. I have given this particular example because of the engineering analysis case only. Whether it is a royalty or it's a software payment, you have to be very correct. So you have, whichever is not falling in the 63 categories, go to the residual category of 64. It is a drop down menu. You can write exactly what is the nature of remittance in the 64th category, which is saying other income.
So 64.
64th I'm saying. 63 already mentioned. So 64th is a residual category, other income. If your category of remittance doesn't fall in all of the 63, you go to 64. Go to 64. Sorry. Now, coming to the next point. So, a purpose code we have already defined. we have already seen. So you have to see the purpose code of the RBI. If you do not know the purpose code of RBI, speak to your AD, because most of the time now they have become very stringent on that. They reject the form if there is a wrong purpose code. So better, it's also a drop down menu. So better to select the correct purpose code, and you can speak to the AD of the assessee. In case the remittance is net of taxes, we have already discussed that we have to tick here that it is grossed up, and then some chargeable to tax comes that on that amount payable in the earlier one. Now 10th is pertaining to the provisions of the Income Tax Act, as per Income Tax Act. So it says that whether the sum is remittance is chargeable to tax, yes or no, then the reasons, then the relevant section of the act which is to be given. The number of word limit is very less, so you have to be very appropriate. You can just write the section number and the name, or you can write section 9, read with section 195, or if you know the particular section in which chargeability is deducted, then you can write that particular section. But the word limit is very less, so you have to fit in your words in that only. Tax liability and the basis of determining why you have achieved that and why you are deducting that. Coming to 11, so 11 is for DTAA. 10 is for domestic tax, whether the income is chargeable under the domestic tax. Now coming to 11. So 11 has 4 portions before, and the very first question it asks is whether TRC is there or not. We have already discussed on TRC. So you just have to say yes or no, whether TRC is there. Then you specify the relevant DTAA, specify the relevant article of DTAA, tax income and all that. In this particular case, where you have taken the benefit of the protocol also, then along with the article, write the protocol also. Write that, DTAA article so-and-so, read with protocol so-and-so. Protocol of the treaty where MFN benefit is taken. Most favored nation clause benefit is taken. So write there only. Coming to next, so 11, basically it has 4 clauses. 11A is related to the payment made to royalty or FTS or interest or dividend, not connected with P. We come to this. 11B is where business income is business income or service P or whatever P is declared. Then we come to 11B. Then again, all the reasons and the rate of remittance has to be given. 11C is for the capital gain. So when the payment is towards capital gain, then 11C. And 11D is the residual category. If it doesn't fall in all above 3 categories, then you go to 11D, which says that, for example, guarantee commission or say gift to non-resident. It doesn't cover in all of the above categories. Then you go to 11D. Then amount of TDS, which we have already decided. It has to, again, in foreign currency and in Indian currency. Then the rate of TDS, it's again a drop down rate of TDS. Then, whichever is more beneficial out of the 2, which we have already decided, income tax or the DTAA, that rate will come here. On the basis of that, amount of remittance, next column will come. Only foreign currency, mindful, in 14 point, amount of remittance after TDS will only be of foreign currency. It will not be of Indian currency. Be careful on that amount. Date of deduction of tax. Now there are 3 situations in this where date of deduction. One is that all the invoices pertain to the same year. No problem. You can, now assessee says, I will not get 100 or 10, 15 CBCS issued. I just want 115 CBA because of the cost benefit consideration or whatever reason. So then he says that please issue me. So in that case, if all the invoices pertain to the same year, you can give the last date of deduction on which the TDS was deduction, because only one date can come here. Multiple dates cannot come here. Second option is you issue multiple 15 CBCS depending on whichever the date of deduction is there. Third, when the invoices pertain to some other year, TDS has been done in some other year, then what will be the date of deduction? Date of deduction will be of the previous year. But again, if in that case, there are some invoices which are related to the previous year, some invoices which are related to the current year, you have to issue separate 15 CB. You cannot merge it because the date of deduction might be different and they are pertaining to different invoices, different financial years. So please be mindful while giving this. Assessee is always of the view that, he always wants that you should issue less 15 CB. So please see that, date of deduction is to be taken considered.
एक और चीज numbers बढ़ाएंगे तुम्हारा
क्या बोले?
numbers बढ़ाएंगे तुम्हारा
This clause is 11B relating to capital gain.
Yes, sir.
We deduct TDS on gross amount. How, where is the question of this capital?
No. So, sir, this is a form which says that you have to give this information to the department. So amount of long term capital gain, what is the issue? We can give the total amount sum chargeable to tax. In
हमारे
this
लिए
case, we
तो
are
पूरा ही रहेगा,
हमारे लिए तो सर पूरा ही रहेगा
पूरा जाएगा ना।
जी सर।
full amount.
हम सेक्शन 192 में भी टीडीएस डिडक्ट कर रहे हैं तो भी हमें यहाँ रिपोर्ट करना है सर।
अगर हमारा कंसर्न केवल सेल अमाउंट पे जो बायर जो
सर अगर हमने लोअर टीडीएस
कैसे पता वो लॉन्ग टर्म पे छोड़ दो।
सर अगर हमने लोअर टीडीएस सर्टिफिकेट ले लिया तो एनी विच वेज हम 195 सबसेक्शन 2 में जा रहे हैं जहाँ पे हम पार्ट बी इशू कर रहे हैं। ठीक है सर, अगर हम कैपिटल गेन हमें पता ही नहीं कितना उसमें से डिटर्मिनेबल है तो हमारे पास कोई चॉइस ही नहीं है, हमें टोटल अमाउंट ही लिखना पड़ेगा।
लॉन्ग टर्म शॉर्ट
सर सर वो तो पीरियड से आएगा ना सर, 12 महीने 24 महीने का है कि
सर
नहीं?
वो तो आपको पता लग सकता है ना, जब शेयर इशू हुए होंगे तो उसका कोई डॉक्यूमेंट मिला होगा, शेयर
सर वो तो दैट ड्यू डिलिजेंस हैज टू बी डन।
प्रॉपर्टी है तो प्रॉपर्टी की रजिस्ट्री हुई होगी आपके नाम पे, कोई डॉक्यूमेंट तो इतना तो मिल ही जाता है।
सर ड्यू डिलिजेंस हैज टू बी डन फ्रॉम योर एंड।
आपको वो तो पता ही करना
अच्छा, इसमें
पड़ेगा, शॉर्ट टर्म का
छोटा सा
रेट
प्रैक्टिकल इशू है कि से फॉर एग्जांपल आपने टीडीएस लास्ट ईयर में काट लिया था,
हाँ।
31 मार्च का था, बट यू आर मेकिंग द पेमेंट राइट नाउ, तो देन देयर इज अ ड्रॉप बॉक्स व्हिच सेज दैट व्हिच ईयर दिस पर्टेन्स टू, मींस ये आप कौन सा फॉर्म, कौन से साल का फॉर्म फाइल कर रहे हो, तो उसमें आप पिछला साल चूज करोगे या ये वाला साल चूज
सर
करोगे?
पिछले साल की चॉइस ही कहाँ दे रहे हो आप?
नहीं पिछला है ना, 2 साल है दिख रहे हैं।
अब 2 साल आ रहे हैं।
हाँ 21 22 भी दिख रहा है, 22 23 भी दिख रहा है।
So if that deduction is done in the previous year, we have to choose the previous year.
प्रीवियस ईयर
Correct, makes sense. If because only the remittance is made this year. So TDS is deducted in the previous year. Invoice pertains to the previous year.
actually if you would see 195 subsection 6,
Yeah,
the obligation of filing form 15 CB
Comes in the previous
only,
remittance.
only at the time of making payment.
sir, absolutely right. Then the same issue comes. What about TRC?
नहीं TRC तो TDS के भी
Sir, TRC भी पेमेंट तो आज कर रहे हैं सर।
पेमेंट TDS is always deductible at the time, और TDS
सर TRC
flexibility मेरे को तब देखनी है जब मैंने डिडक्शन कर ली,
सर जब हम
बट फाइलिंग ऑफ फॉर्म 15 CACB को मेरे को तब करना है जब मैं पेमेंट करने जा रहा हूँ।
सर एग्रीड सर 15 CBCA में जब हम TRC के लिए भी
तो अगर मान
पूछते हैं।
लीजिए 3 साल पुरानी कोई पेमेंट आज कर रहा हूँ, अभी कल मेरे को फेमा वाले बता के गए कि 3 साल बाद भी आप पेमेंट कर सकते हो,
करेक्ट सर, हाँ
तो अब मैं उसमें 3 साल पहले का तो फॉर्म ही नहीं चूज कर सकता।
सर उस केस में तो अपने को आज का ही देना
आज का ही
पड़ेगा।
देना पड़ेगा।
प्रैक्टिकली सर भी आप
एक्चुअली जैसे सर भी बोल रहे हैं ना,
हाँ।
अगर हम दोनों की रीडिंग ले तो ये 15 सीबी की रीडिंग रेमिटेंस में निकलती है, और उस पे भी इवन अगर हम रूल 26 भी पढ़ें तो टीडीएस की भी बात करता है, वो भी जो डिडक्ट करने की बात करता है वो उसी दिन की बात करता है जिस दिन आप टीडीएस काट रहे हो।
सर मैं
उसी
बिल्कुल
दिन के रेट की बात करता
मैं
है।
बिल्कुल एग्री कर रही हूँ अंशु जी।
Issues है।
तभी मेरा दूसरा क्वेश्चन है कि मैं टीआरसी भी आज क्वेश्चन पूछा जा रहा है मुझसे एट द टाइम ऑफ रेमिटेंस। दैट इज द रीजन आई एम आस्किंग दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन। सर जिस दिन मैं 15 सीबी इशू कर रही हूँ मुझसे तो आज ही पूछा जा रहा है whether TRC has been obtained.
तो बट पूछा जा रहा है, लेकिन वो पूछा तो उस रेमिटेंस के लिए जा रहा है ना जो हमने टीडीएस काट चुके हैं।
एग्जैक्टली सेम
उसी रेमिटेंस
सर टीडीएस भी उसी रेमिटेंस के लिए।
TDS उसी रेमिटेंस के लिए,
सो
लेकिन
सर सेम स्टोरी
लेकिन
सर।
थोड़ा सा ये है पेचीदा है हल्का सा मामला।
आई नो, आई एग्री विद यू।
फॉर्म 15 CACB की जो रिक्वायरमेंट है वो टीडीएस डिडक्शन के ऊपर नहीं है, वो रेमिटेंस के ऊपर है।
आई
So when
एग्री।
we file the form 15 CACB, then can we take a position कि ये आज के लिए जा रहा है, बट वहां पे अब आज की डेट में प्रॉब्लम क्या होगा? आज की डेट में प्रॉब्लम उसमें क्या है कि पिछले सालों में तो क्या था, टैक्स रेट आपका पिछले भी 10 तो होता था, आज भी 10 है, आज की डेट पे चेंज हो गया।
चेंज हो गया।
ठीक है, अब आप अगर आज का डाल दोगे और पिछले साल का है तो वहां पे क्या होगा कि ये
Mismatch
issue
आ
आ जाएगा कि आपने रेट तो टीडीएस का 10% काटा,
और
आप
काटा
बोल रहे हो कि ये आज का है फॉर्म 15 CACB, तो ये थोड़ा सा सिर्फ चैलेंज इस पर्टिकुलर साल में है क्योंकि टैक्स रेट चेंज हो गया।
चेंज हो गया।
अदरवाइज आप करंट ईयर में जो फाइल कर रहे हो उसी का भी ले लोगे तो कोई बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज नहीं आएगा।
But the other view which as you are rightly giving is that you know the date of filing comes. So date of filing is any which ways today. So it doesn't matter whichever year then you choose.
हाँ मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, लेकिन
Considering that point of time
Considering-
that we are signing the certificate today only.
आई एम जस्ट प्रीएम्प्टिंग
हाँ।
कि एक चैलेंज ये आ सकता है क्योंकि आपने टीडीएस मान लीजिए 10% पे काट लिया पिछले साल में और आप आज फाइल कर रहे हो और आप उसमें ईयर भी आज ही का सिलेक्ट कर लेते हो, सो देयर इज वन पॉसिबिलिटी के कल को इनकम टैक्स अथॉरिटी आकर के बोलेगा, ऑब्वियसली आपके पास जस्टिफाई करने का है ना, सारी प्रोबेबिलिटीज हैं कि आप जस्टिफाई कर सकते हो, बट डू वी वांट टू गेट इनटू दैट प्रोसेस ऑफ जस्टिफिकेशन? दैट इज द ओनली इशू।
Correct.
ये डिफरेंट पर्पस कोड है तो क्या हम डिफरेंट फॉर्म से इशू करेंगे एक भी हो सकता
सर अगर डिफरेंट पर्पस कोड है तो ऑप्शन ही नहीं है, अलग ही करना पड़ेगा सर। नहीं कर सकते सर। डिफरेंट पर्पस ऑफ रेमिटेंस होगा तो भी अलग करना पड़ेगा।
मैं एक क्वेश्चन था लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल जो अभी तुमने पूछा था
जी
नॉर्मली क्या होता है, एनआरई जब बेचता है प्रॉपर्टी इंडिया में, तो अपने इंडियन अकाउंट में पैसा मंगवा देता
हाँ
है,
सर,
डायरेक्टली वो ट्रांसफर नहीं करवाता।
करेक्ट सर।
फिर इंडियन अकाउंट से वो ट्रांसफर करता है
बैंकर इंसिस्ट करते हैं अगर आप एनआरओ अकाउंट में भी पेमेंट करोगे, एनआरआई को पेमेंट करोगे तो 15 सीबीसीए जनरेट करना पड़ेगा सर, नो ऑप्शन।
टेक्निकली
नहीं,
नहीं
एनआरओ से एनआरई अकाउंट में नहीं, नॉर्मल सेविंग अकाउंट में मंगवाया उसने
सर नॉर्मल सेविंग अकाउंट तो वो रख ही नहीं सकता सर।
एनआरओ अकाउंट में मंगवाया,
हाँ।
वो आ जाता है उसमें बिना
हाँ।
15 सीसी के,
हाँ।
फिर वहां से वो ट्रांसफर करता है अपने एनआरई अकाउंट में या फिर आउटसाइड इंडिया वाले
हाँ
अकाउंट में। उस टाइम पे वो 15 सीसी मांगते हैं हमसे, जब वो इंडियन एनआरओ अकाउंट से।
Sir, logically and correct view is that when we are transferring to his NRO account, he cannot maintain a savings account as per FEMA, so we are not going into that debate. But if he has an NRO account in India, because of whatever comfort, his comfort or whatever reason or the ease of business or whatever, he says that kindly transfer this amount to my NRO account. We are supposed to deduct under section 195 and transfer and remit on that day. 15 CBCA has to be issued that time.
बट डिडक्ट क्या
डिडक्ट तो 195 में हो ही गया
नहीं,
और रेमिटेंस
he is asking कि वो अपने अकाउंट से बाहर के अकाउंट में ले जाए।
अभी भी सर 15 CBCA है।
जब उसके एनआरओ अकाउंट में पेमेंट आती है तो बैंक वाले 15 सीसी में नहीं मांगते, अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर कर देते हैं।
बहुत बढ़िया सर।
आ गया अमाउंट।
हाँ।
अब एनआरओ से ट्रांसफर कर रहा है वो अपने एनआरआई अकाउंट में या फिर आउटसाइड इंडिया।
सर तब उसको जरूरत ही नहीं है 15 CBCA। पर बैंक वाले
हाँ,
सर बैंक इंसिस्ट
खुद ही बन जाता है।
हाँ,
सर-
बैंक उस टाइम पे मांगते हैं।
सर-
तो उस टाइम पे जो हम पर्पस कोड डाले
हाँ।
तो वो कैपिटल गेन का नेचर तो है नहीं, कैपिटल गेन का नेचर तो उस टाइम पे आया जब पहली ट्रांजैक्शन हुई एनआरओ में ट्रांसफर।
इसमें सरप्लस था ना
उसकी बात ये-
अदर
हाँ, वो-
इसमें सर प्रैक्टिकली बैंकों के साथ मैंने डील भी करा हुआ है, बात भी करी हुई है इसके लिए। तो इसमें एक्चुअली में तो टेक्निकली जैसे मैडम भी बता रही है रिक्वायरमेंट
नहीं है।
15 CSE भी होता है रेमिटेंस के लिए। रेमिटेंस में देयर शुड बी 2 पार्टी 1 पार्टी 2।
हाँ।
When I myself is transferring I should have 2 banks and 2 parties. If I am myself is transferring, then there are no 2 parties, so technically it is not required. But yes, practically कोई भी बैंक नहीं मानता है। तो इसमें जो निगेटिव लिस्ट वाली ट्रांजेक्शन है और फिर आप 15 CA कर रहे हो तो आपको 15 CB भी करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि वो 15 CB ही मांगते हैं।
हाँ।
ठीक है, तो उसमें जो निगेटिव लिस्ट में वो फैमिली सेविंग वाला आता है ना, फैमिली सेविंग सेज की जो मेरा ही पैसा है जो रखा हुआ है,
फैमिली मेंटेनेंस के नाम से
तो
हम
वो अगर आप
now-
कर देते हो तो आपने टेक्निकली ये भी लिख दिया कि मेरे को रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं थी और आपने क्योंकि सिर्फ बैंक मांग रहा था इसलिए दे दिया।
So now coming to his point where he's saying that the transfer can be done through family settlement or family that
Saving वाला।
maintenance. So recently 2 days back only, ED has come on radar of all those which has transferred that amount through this family remittance. Kindly do not do that. अभी आप 3-4 दिन के पहले न्यूज़पेपर, I will give you the exact date. All those, especially, all big, I would not name anyone. So they have been transferring lots of amounts in the name of family remittance, family rendering, and they are creating their properties there. So it is not permitted. Let us be very honest. Let us say that it's a capital gain payment. You can do it in the other clause. You can specifically write that you have issued a 15 CV for the payment, which was actually a capital gain. And you have now he's transferring from his NRO to NRE account. Purpose code, please ask the RBI. RBI if tells you that it's a payment for remittance, then please tell him I am not going to sign it. There are lot of cases recently only. They are catching all those who are making payment by ILRS and through this remittance. It was the front page news 3-4 days back in Economic Times. I will just share the.
बट मैम अगर पहले 15 CSE इशू हो रखा होगा इनिशियल पेमेंट पे कैपिटल गेन के टाइम पे हो रखा है,
हाँ।
उस टाइम पे उसने पेमेंट तो
सर उसने 15 CB से इशू ही नहीं हुआ आपने
नहीं हुआ, इनके केस में नहीं हुआ
नहीं लिया
क्योंकि
पहली ट्रांजेक्शन में आपने
नहीं
लिया, नहीं पहली ट्रांजेक्शन में नहीं लिया तब तो फिर वो तो गड़बड़ है। मैं मुझे तो लगा आपने पहली ट्रांजेक्शन में तो नहीं लिया होगा, बस ये पैसे लेते हैं।
सर नहीं नहीं, तो जब आप इशू करेंगे तो आप क्लियरली लिख दीजिए।
यार वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा, वो दूसरे कमेंट
कमेंट डालने का ऑप्शन नहीं है, जहाँ पे अदर रेमिटेंस है वहाँ पे आप लिख
Purpose
दीजिए
code.
पर्पस कोड में, और आप वहाँ पे लिख दीजिए क्लैरिटी दैट this amount which is going is subject is already TDS has been deducted and capital gain is the amount.
उसको दिखाएं हम लॉन्ग टर्म वाले में।
नहीं आप अदर रेजिडुअल कैटेगरी में डाल दीजिए सर, डी वाले में।
रेजिडुअल कैटेगरी में डाल
हाँ, because any which ways now this payment is from NRE to NRO, NRO to NRE. हाँ, so in that case you cannot use 11C.
हाँ,
क्योंकि अब डायरेक्टली तो जा नहीं रहा बाहर। 11D आप ले लीजिए, ऑप कर लीजिए, बट आप जब 11D ऑप कर रहे हैं तो आप उसको लिख दीजिएगा स्पेसिफाई नेचर ऑफ रेमिटेंस में कि इट इज अ कैपिटल गेन अमाउंट व्हिच इज सीज ट्रांसफरिंग।
नहीं देखिए उसमें
दे टेक अ सेपरेट सर्टिफिकेट आल्सो, A1 लेते हैं और A2 लेते हैं, दे टेक ऑल,
इसमें
वो दे
इसमें
देंगे।
एक दो चीजें होती हैं कि आपका ये जरूरी नहीं है कि सिर्फ और सिर्फ कैपिटल गेन का अमाउंट ही होगा। फॉर एग्जांपल उसमें इंटरेस्ट भी हो गया, मान लो उनकी प्रॉपर्टी थी उसमें से रेंट आ रहा था, रेंट भी हो गया। तो एक सरप्लस का अमाउंट, सरप्लस का कॉलम होता है, आप ड्रॉप डाउन में देखोगे तो सरप्लस होता है, सरप्लस फंड्स है। तो सरप्लस फंड में आप उसको करके दे सकते हो, बट यू विल हैव टू चेक व्हाइल यू आर इशूइंग फॉर्म 15 सीबी। आपने ये चेक करना है कि जितनी ये इनकम आई थी उनको पिछले 2-3 साल में, उसके ऊपर उन्होंने ड्यू टैक्सेस पे करे या नहीं कर दिए हैं। टेक द टैक्स रिटर्न्स, डिक्लेरेशंस एंड एवरीथिंग। तो वो चीजों के बिना फॉर्म 15 सीबी ना इशू करें तो अच्छा है।
करेक्ट।
और अच्छा क्या मतलब ना ही करें।
बैंक भी नहीं करना है ना।
और नेचर
बैंक से तो बैंक तो आपके सर्टिफाई कर रहा है सर, बैंक तो आपके ऊपर रिलाई कर रहा है। आपने चेक किया कि नहीं किया वो आपकी जिम्मेदारी है।
आई एग्री विद दैट पॉइंट, बट मेरे ये कहने का मतलब था कि वो उससे पहले तो आप सर्टिफिकेट से इशू करने, मतलब एक्चुअल में टेक्निकल रिक्वायरमेंट तो नहीं है ना सर।
नहीं,
Technically
टेक्निकल
तो
रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं
Technical
है।
requirement, अगर आप बैंक
अगर आप
को
सर्टिफाई कर रहे हो,
प्लेन ईमेल भी लिख देते हो,
नहीं
कई बार
मानते।
बैंक मान जाते हैं।
नहीं मानते, वो
अगर
अगर
आप-
आप लेके आओ उसके बाद ही ट्रांसफर करेंगे।
आगे चलते हैं।
आगे
चल
So now we next is accountant name in the last slide and name of partnership and name of the proprietor membership, whatever that has to be given. Now these are the purpose codes. This we have done. List of nature we have done. Now coming to the steps for filing form. Sir, how much time do we have?
वो आपके सीए में भी एड्रेस आता है।
मैम ये प्रैक्टिकल इतना है कि आप ही नहीं, आप
I can
आप-
take it sir. मेरे पास तो बहुत slides है अभी, 4-5 स्लाइड और है। आप
मेरे
जब
ख्याल
बोलेंगे
से
मैं बंद कर
आप
दूंगी।
बताइए ये रिक्वायरमेंट कितनी है।
इसके तो नहीं है स्टेप्स, ये तो
So I will just tell you one pointer in that. हाँ सर, important point मैं बता देती हूँ 15 CA और CB में। देखिए, whenever you are issuing a 15 CB, there are two options to go inside. One is through a PAN login and other through is a TAN login. What we do is that we enter through the PAN login. 15 CA generally foreign residents के पास होता ही नहीं है PAN. They have the TAN login. So they will enter through the TAN login. उनको वो acknowledgement number ही नहीं दिखेगा. So you have to, if you are entering through the PAN login of 15 CB, then from 15 CA also you have to enter through the PAN login. If you are at, if the 15 CA, that means the non-resident assessing says I just have a TAN, so you while issuing a 15 CB you have to put the TAN number of 15 CB, and then from that TAN you will go to the 15 CA, then automatically that acknowledgement number is generated there. TAN of the deductor, TAN of the not deductor, the payee. सर पेई के पास है ना, जो बाहर वाला है। नॉन रेजिडेंट जनरली इंडिया में पैन नहीं लेता और टैन लेता है। ऐसा इसलिए लगता है क्योंकि उसके पास और सारी ग्रुप कंपनीज होती है जिसके टीडीएस उसको डिपॉजिट करने पड़ते हैं। सो जनरली मोस्ट ऑफ द नॉन रेजिडेंट कंपनीज हैव टैन हियर, दे डोंट हैव पैन ओनली। फॉरेन कंपनीज वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ, जिनका हम पेमेंट कर रहे हैं यहाँ से, ग्रुप कंपनीज का। हाँ, उनके पास टैन होते हैं सर। सो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टेल यू इज दैट देयर इज अ मिसमैच। There is a mismatch. What happens is हमने तो पैन डाला because हमें तो पता है सब पैन ही है, हमें तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं कि that he has a tan also, he might have a tan also. He doesn't have a PAN. He log in from his TAN, that certificate or form is not reflecting only. So you have to be very careful.
बस पैन ही नहीं होगा तो हम डालेंगे कैसे।
सर वो तो आप करेक्ट है ना सर, आप इसीलिए मैं कह रही हूँ कि जब वो पैन और 10-15 CB में बढ़ना है ना हमको, so we will only fill that TAN और PAN, मतलब इधर दैट। और हमारे पैन है तो हमारे सेम सर। और फिर 15 CA में जब जाओगे तो आप फिर उसी लॉगिन से करोगे सर एंटर। जी सर। हाँ। सर सीए में तो कोई इशू ही नहीं है ना, आपने अपने लॉगिन से कर दिया पैन से। सर हमने 15 CB में एक 15 CB का जब फॉर्म आता है उसमें पैन नंबर पूछता है या टैन पूछता है ऑफ द डिडक्टर। ठीक है सर। हाँ सर, नॉन रेजिडेंट कंपनी, आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ अ केस वेयर एनआर टू एनआर, पेमेंट फ्रॉम एनआर टू एनआर। ठीक है सर, चलो इंडिया में
अभी हम इंडिया में देख
कोई बात नहीं सर। हम सर अब जब
कल क्रॉस बॉर्डर बहुत हो गया, आज बॉर्डर क्रॉस ही कर गए। कल क्रॉस बॉर्डर चल रहा था ना, मैं वहां जब बॉर्डर क्रॉस कर दिया।
So I think the other important thing in is this, that there are two options. One is online uploading, other is the offline uploading. Online uploading में तो कोई problem नहीं है, you immediately upload and you acknowledgement number is generated. So far as offline method is concerned, you have to download that certificate form. it is a Java utility, I think. Then you have to fill that form offline. You can create multiple forms in the offline portal. All the Java utilities are filled, then you can create an Excel of that, and you can directly upload again in that portal. Once you upload it, after 3 to 4 hours, the income tax department will automatically approve it. If it doesn't approve it, that means there is some error somewhere in the form. After 4 to 5 hours, you again download it. Then you go to the 15 CA portal. Then again, you do the same thing. You upload, manually fill that form. You again upload it. After again 4 5 hours, it will download it. In that case, the only plus point is that bulk uploading can be done together. The negative point is that you will not know what will be the mistake of that. Mistake will only be known when that it says a rejection of the form. So that will only be known that. So both the options are available offline and online.
Sir, last, from the sir, that sir has asked respect of an error while making the payment, I think so. He told कि हम लोग बाद में बताएंगे, this is correct.
So कौन सी है?
वो कार्ड
आ रही हूँ सर, आ रही हूँ, कार्ड पे भी आ रही हूँ सर, आ रही हूँ. So इससे पहले एक और थी, एक साइड और थी documentation. So these are all the standard documentation which we should generally have while issuing 15 CBCA. This is for the reference only. Consequences of non-compliance, we have more or less discussed so many of them. I think now you people, you can go through all the list, otherwise it's there. Refund. So now on refund, I would say that, in case you have deposited excess, in case the contract is cancelled, in case for whatever reasons as prescribed under that circular number 7/2007 and circular number 7 of 2011, a payer is entitled to claim refund in case he has actually made the payment. If he has not paid the payment, then nothing, but refund is only there if he has made the payment. And these are the few of the reasons: contract is cancelled, remittance is made to a non-resident, and later on a partial contract is cancelled, and whatever the reasons are. So in that case, there is a specific procedure where you can claim refund, and you have to apply, give an application to the AO and within 30 days and from the date of the payment, and then you have to file the form in form 29D, read with rule 40G, and based on that, you can get the claim. So an AO has to pass the order within 6 months from which on the date which he received the application. No. Till now, yeah, it's a manual.
30 days right. Contact के बाद 30 days के बाद कैंसिल होगा.
Sir, फिर पता नहीं sir. See, the law says this only, but I think there is a remedy in 100 section 119, जहाँ पे all those which doesn't go will go to section.
CIT वगैरह के पास.
CIT appeal के पास section पे. CIT के पास. Not appeal, CIT के पास.
CIT के पास जाकर के आप
request कर सकते हैं under 190 section 190. So these are the common errors which we were so and so forth discussing. So revision and withdrawal of 15 CA CB. पहले तो सिर्फ 15 CA की window होती थी किसी time पे. Now there is a window for both 15 CA and 15 CB both. 7 days I think is the window for withdrawal. If you are unable to withdraw, then and the UDIN is generated for UDIN withdrawal, there is a 60-day. So in case you have withdrawn the UDIN also, then the certificate will not be considered. Otherwise, you can maintain a login of disregarded 15 CB and CA at your end, that these certificates were issued at my end but were not used by the assessee, or these certificates were issued and I had to reissue because of whatever reasons. Practical challenges in filing of omission of filing, we have already discussed, so forth and so on. UDN I have already said. PAN 10 I have explained you abhi, that what happens. Turnaround time, we already know that 7 days window is open. Refund due to cancellation, already explained.
For filing.
For a withdrawal of 15 CBC. Option to gross up we have discussed. Issues with TRC we have discussed. Person signing 15 CA, the DSC has to be there. Authorized signatory has to be there. This person's name should be there in that online portal where we are signing. The director's name or whosoever principal officer's name should not mismatch with the person we are putting DSC. DSC of some other person and the authorized signatory some other. That should not be there. Deferred or no payment after the issue. Again, we have to keep a log of disregarded forms and everything. Where remittance is made, of course, we have to see that TRC I think I already explained this, that TRC of the relevant country has to be seen in the case of remittance. RBI purpose codes we have already discussed. SBI TTBR we have already discussed. Payments made under the act, but exempt under DTA. 50 Part C or Part D, Part C has to be issued. 15 CB has to be issued, then we take a treaty break. It is some chargeable to tax. We don't go to Part D.
For
Indirect
example, the software payments and all,
for any.
for any.
For any. Yeah, for software or SCP or whatever. If it is chargeable and
SCP सिर्फ परचेज ऑफ गुड्स
हाँ, purchase of
वैसे ही आउटसाइड स्कोप है क्योंकि वो एग्जेम्प्टेड आइटम्स में आता है
हाँ, वो अगर exempted
एग्जेम्प्टेड लिस्ट में है
हाँ, वो अगर
सीबी आपको गुड्स परचेज ऑफ गुड्स के लिए है ही नहीं तो
हाँ।
तो अभी वहां पे प्रॉब्लम ये है कि फॉर्म 15 सीबी जाता नहीं है, क्लाइंट हमारे पास आता नहीं है तो उसको पता ही नहीं है एससीपी की एप्लीकेबिलिटी हो गई है, फॉर्म 10F वगैरह आ गए. So it is always advisable आज की डेट पे that if we have any client who is purchasing goods from a party which is exceeding 2 crore rupees, then we should go to them and ask कि बॉस अब आपको 10 इलेक्ट्रॉनिक 10F देना पड़ेगा, otherwise ये issue.
2 crore limit is between the clients, the transaction, right? Not his entire turnover, only for transaction between.
हमको तो वही देखना है सर, ऐसा ही लगता है.
हमें तो ट्रांजैक्शन ही देखना है. So now in case of indirect transfer of Indian shares to two non-residents involved, if he doesn't have a PAN or TAN and there is no way, if the remittance is made in India, I mean, TDS would be deducted, no issues on that. 195(1) would come into play, absolutely fine. But so far as 195 subsection 6 is concerned, where 15 CB CA is to be issued, where to issue? If there are two non-residents involved. Most likely 15 CB CA will not be issued so far as company is concerned. Of course, for individual NRO to NRE, we have already discussed that. Common concerns we are talking of reimbursement of expenses. We have to be very cautious that they are reimbursement of expenses only. Anything under the guise of reimbursement of expenses, for example, master service agreement is there in the place, and the parent entity has entered into a master service agreement with all of us, and it says that you have to pay. Please reimburse me that amount, which I am making a payment on your behalf with a consultant of some other country. So you have to see that whether it's a service. Which service amount where income is embedded, or it's a pure reimbursement. So pure reimbursement, of course, some not chargeable to tax, and if it's a service or whatever different type of consultant payment is there, or it is not a reimbursement, then you have to see accordingly. Transfer from NRO to NRE, we have already discussed. EL. Now, EL 10 subsection 50 exempt under the Income Tax Act. But still, we are supposed to issue 15 CB CA because we will say that Part D would be issued.
Part D only.
Part D only.
More than 5 lakhs.
Sir, Part D.
Part D.
Part D.
These won't fall in the list.
Because we are exempt under 10 subsection 50. So loan advance to foreign AE, this is a capital account transaction, so we'll be out of this, and we need not issue any 15 CB CA here. Whether remittance in kind or transfer, again, we have already discussed this, that, we have to deposit the tax so far as 15 CBCA is concerned, depending on whether there exists some, this, or I don't think so, 15 CBCA. I think there are cases where this 15 CBCA might have to be issued in case of, say, buyback of shares or maybe transfer of shares. Some amount if remitted, then 15 CBCA is issued. Otherwise, 15 CBCA will not be issued. 195(1) subsection 1 TDS will be deducted in case of kind. Part payment we have already discussed. Proportionate amount, whatever the proportionate payment is there, TDS will be deducted on that payment only. I mean, if you are remitting, say, half of the amount, it's an advance amount, then only proportionate TDS or the TDS relevant to that advance will be deducted today. When you are making the part payment later on, TDS, another 15 CBCA has to go.
Well, if we have a book invoice, suppose for ₹100 in March, and we are paying 15 April and 15 May. So in for 50, we have to mention 50 coding.
Yes, only the part.
Coding,
Yeah. Yes.
And date we will mention
Of the same, correct, absolutely right.
Deduction of the
Deduction of that. Payment from branch office to head office. Of course, if there is a foreign company having an Indian branch, then it's a 195(1) transaction. foreign company having foreign company having a branch in India, that means it's equivalent to a foreign branch. So 15 CBCA will be applicable. But if an Indian company has a foreign branch, then 15 CBCA might not have to be issued because it's a resident to resident. Then payment through SBLC, buyer's credit outside, again 15 CA has to be issued. Use of credit card, very important, which we have been discussing throughout. So now, if we are making any payment through credit card, through PayPal, or through Paytm, whatever mode, which is not through the regular banking channels, what do we do? So now, so far as chartered accountant is concerned, we are supposed to deduct tax and deposit the same on the payments made through credit card, because our liability doesn't dissolve on that. 195 subsection 1 comes into play. TDS has to be deducted even if the payment is routed through credit card, through PayPal, or whatever. The main reason being that in tax audit, you will be caught hold of. You cannot say that there is a separate, whole TDS provisions clause 32, or I don't recall, I think clause 32 only of TAR. So what will you say that? So TDS, so far as TDS liability is concerned, we are supposed to deduct taxes. Now, so far as 15 CBCA is concerned, where will we show? Not required. Absolutely fine. Tax compliance should be there because आपको tax audit report में भी report करना होगा.
मेरा different view है वहाँ पे. So
Very good.
I'm just providing an alternate view. इसमें बहुत सारी कंपनीज आज की डेट पे फॉर्म 15 CACB इश्यूज कर रही हैं एंड मेरे हिसाब से इसमें कोई एग्जम्पशन नहीं है किसी भी तरीके का, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली द पेमेंट इज गोइंग आउटसाइड ऑफ इंडिया. सेक्शन 190 सबसेक्शन 195 सबसेक्शन 6 बोलता है कि अगर आप पेमेंट कर रहे हो बाहर तो आपको ऑब्लिगेशन है ये फाइल करने की. आप सिर्फ ये बोलें कि हम तो क्रेडिट कार्ड से कर रहे हैं इसलिए यहाँ पे BSR कोड और बैंक अकाउंट वगैरह नहीं आ सकता, वो थोड़ा सा चैलेंजिंग है क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली रिपोर्टिंग आप जिस बैंक से कर रहे हो, भाई आपका कोई क्रेडिट कार्ड किसी बैंक से तो इशूड होगा ना, अल्टीमेटली आप उस बैंक का BSR डालिए क्योंकि आप उस क्रेडिट कार्ड की पेमेंट तो कर ही रहे हो ना अल्टीमेटली कहीं ना कहीं से. तो अब वो आप किसी भी इंडिविजुअल का होता है बहुत सारी जगहों पे, जो कि डायरेक्टर होते हैं, CFO होते हैं, कोई मैनेजमेंट टीम का बंदा होता है. मेजरली आपके जो जितनी भी सॉफ्टवेयर की सब्सक्रिप्शन होती हैं, फेसबुक हो गया, लिंक्डइन हो गया, सब क्रेडिट कार्ड से पे हो रहे हैं आज की डेट पे. बट अभी हम एक ड्यू डिलिजेंस हैंडल कर रहे हैं एक स्टार्टअप का, उसमें बिग 4 ड्यू डिलिजेंस कर रहे हैं एंड उन्होंने ये पॉइंट बना दिया 6 महीने से अटके हुए कि जब तक आप फॉर्म 15 CB की कंप्लायंस पूरी नहीं करोगे ऑन क्रेडिट कार्ड पेमेंट, आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं आएगी.
क्रेडिट कार्ड से मोड ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट, मोड ऑफ पेमेंट, इट्स अ मोड ऑफ पेमेंट का जो मेन प्रिंसिपल कैरेक्टर है
होते हैं सर. एक मिनट स्मॉल अमाउंट्स का मैं बता देता हूँ कि मान लीजिए आप हर महीने किसी पार्टी को पेमेंट करते हो. अब जनरली इसमें व्यू ये है क्योंकि आप पेमेंट तो हो ही चुकी है, पेमेंट से पहले तो ये जा नहीं रहा, पोस्ट फैक्टो ही जाएगा मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम क्योंकि फाइनेंस टीम को पता ही नहीं लगता. ठीक है, तो पोस्ट फैक्टो में क्या है कि आप पिछले साल का भी फॉर्म 15 CACB इशू कर सकते हो, तो आप उसका डेट ऑफ डिडक्शन डाल दो. आप ये इंश्योर करो कि उसके ऊपर ग्रॉस अप करके TDS का अमाउंट जमा हो गया है. आप ये भी इंश्योर करो कि उन फॉरेन पार्टीज का TRC वगैरह था या नहीं था और क्या रेट होना चाहिए उसके ऊपर लगना चाहिए. आज की डेट पे आप मेजॉरिटी ऑफ केसेस में ये गूगल, फेसबुक, Amazon वगैरह के पास चले जाओगे, उनके कस्टमर केयर को ईमेल कर दोगे, दे विल प्रोवाइड यू एवरीथिंग. वो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फॉर्म 10F तक दे रहे हैं. अभी हम गूगल की पेमेंट कर रहे हैं, वो सब इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फॉर्म 10F दे रहे हैं, आराम से मिल रहा है. सो इट इज जस्ट अवेयरनेस, यू हैव टू राइट टू देम. बिना लिखे कोई नहीं देगा, अपने आप से कोई नहीं देगा. तो आप लिख दोगे तो वो दे देंगे. हाँ, तो आप इस अमाउंट को फिल करो और पेमेंट करो. पूरा फाइनेंशियल ईयर का हम नहीं सजेस्ट करते, क्वार्टरली कर दो, मंथली कर दो, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर पेमेंट्स की कितनी है.
इज देयर अ टाइमलाइन? फॉर एग्जांपल मैं अप्रैल 22 का कर रहा हूं, मैं अप्रैल 21 का कर रहा हूं.
अब वो है ही नहीं ना, अप्रैल 21 का आपको फाइनेंशियल ईयर मिलेगा ही नहीं.
फाइनेंशियल
ईयर विंडो ही नहीं मिल रही, विंडो क्लोज हो गई है. सो अभी आज की डेट पे आपको फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21-22 की विंडो दिख रही है, लेकिन वो कब क्लोज हो जाएगी पता ही नहीं है. तो इट्स ऑलवेज गुड कि आपको अगर करंट फाइनेंशियल ईयर का है तो करंट फाइनेंशियल ईयर में ही करके खत्म कर दो इसको।
अच्छा, इसमें एक ऐसा कर सकते हैं, इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी देना 6% की, तो एडवर्टाइजमेंट कैंपेन तो है ही है।
हाँ तो बट फॉर्म 15 सीबी तो आप
ये करना होगा
ना, सीए कर दो आप,
सीए करना
CA
होगा।
कर दो,
सीए पार्टी करो बिल्कुल। मेरा भी ये है कि आपको बिल्कुल मैंडेटरी है।
यस सर, करेक्ट है, वो मैंने भी किया हुआ जो आप बोल रहे हो ना, सेम वही
बोथ
वाली
15
report,
सीबी
वो
दोनों
बिल्कुल
को
सही है।
सर जहाँ पे सीबी की रिक्वायरमेंट है वहाँ पे सीबी
जहाँ पे
कीजिए,
टीडीएस कटा है वो सीबी,
जहाँ पे टीडीएस कट रहा है वहाँ पे सीबीबी कीजिए, और जहाँ पे टीडीएस नहीं है, जैसे आप वो बोल रहे हो कि इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी है, तो सीए कर दीजिए।
इसमें एक पॉइंट था, जैसे डायरेक्टर ने अपने क्रेडिट कार्ड से रिवर्स करते हैं, तो अल्टीमेटली कंपनी उसको डायरेक्टर को रिवर्स करती है बुक क्लोज करने के लिए, तो क्या 15 सीएचवी का कंपनी के बैंक अकाउंट माना कर सकते हैं फिर?
हाँ बैंक का अकाउंट कंपनी का ही डाल
Issue ही है। Reimbursement कर दो।
कंपनी बैंक का ही डाल दो।
ठीक है, अल्टीमेटली कंपनी लायबल।
यस यस।
What is the penalty or late fees for this late filing?
लेट फाइलिंग तो फीस तो कोई नहीं
वो
है।
है ना, टीडीएस के नॉन कंप्लायंस सारे लग गए ना आपके, 200
But TDS है तो,
देखिए
but अगर TDS नहीं है, सिर्फ 15 CA यहाँ पे
देखिए अगर नॉन रिपोर्टिंग है तो पेनल्टी तो फिर भी लगी रही है।
इसका भी तो है ना, पर डेली वेली का कुछ
500
इसकी पर डेली वेली की होती है, बहुत बढ़िया बैंक क्रेडिट, लेटर क्रेडिट,
नहीं वहाँ पे 27
क्रेडिट कार्ड के केस में भी 5 लाख की लिमिट तो कंसीडर करनी है।
नहीं इस पे कोई
क्रेडिट कार्ड के केस में भी 5 लाख वाली लिमिट तो कंसीडर होगी।
हाँ वो वाली तो
बट ये मतलब
Yes.
एग्जैक्ट बात नहीं है
क्वाक क्रेडिट कार्ड और क्वाक
मैंने बहुत पहले
ऐसा वाला
कैसे
सुन-
देखना
श्योर शॉट था,
नहीं।
एक जगह लिखा हुआ है
सर
Payment
क्रेडिट
through
कार्ड
credit
मैंने
card
वालों मेरे पास
may
25
be
क्रेडिट
mode
कार्ड
of
है,
payment.
मैंने हर क्रेडिट कार्ड से
Whether you
X
have
amount,
made
so
payment in
it is not
cash,
core credit card, it
through
has to be
bank,
coin
through
detail.
internet bank, ठीक है, थ्रू अदर्स
वो वही है सॉल्यूशन, वही है कि आप अपनी एंटिटी का ईपीएस कोड डाल दो और अपनी एंटिटी का बैंक अकाउंट डाल दो।
आप इवेंचुअली क्रेडिट कार्ड से पे करो, बैंक पेमेंट ऑफ इंडियन This is one.
I think this is the last one.
Early payment आपके
Just
forex
another.
में जाने तो इसलिए reporting required.
Coming back
That's
to
not- this is-
last 3-4 points, we are about, बस ये 3-4 पॉइंट ये सब। I am sure that this view is also equally good because we should do it, but I could not find any way to do it. And part CA 15 CA people are issuing, but 15 CB we are not issuing. Nobody is coming to us, to be very honest. And whenever we for the credit card payments, they are asking us our opinion and then they don't come back for the reporting. I am only talking of the reporting portion. TDS we are doing, compliance we are doing.
इंडियन रुपीस से जा रही है, क्रेडिट कार्ड से पेमेंट जा रही है फॉरेन को,
उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
उसका आइडेंटिफाई नहीं होता स्टेटमेंट
नहीं, एक व्यू ये है कि जो सेक्शन आया था दैट इज फॉर ट्रैकिंग दी फॉरेस्ट, फॉर को इंटरप्रिटेशन टीडीएस से
ऐसा सर वो ठीक है, वो उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव कुछ भी हो सकता है, लेकिन जो लॉ में लैंग्वेज लिखी है वो ये लिखी है कि
टैक्स
अगर आप
टैक्स मैं बोल रही हूँ आपको 195 सबसेक्शन 1 में तो आपको टैक्स काटना ही है, वी आर नॉट डिस्कसिंग दैट। द ओनली इशू व्हिच वी आर डिस्कसिंग इज 15 सीबीसी होना है कि नहीं होना, दैट इज व्हाट इज डिफरेंट व्यू इज। So far as tax is concerned, we both are of the same view, tax जमा करके सरकार को तो दे दो। Now the point is that whether 15 CBCA can be issued and how much practically it is possible. So we have different view. Of course, you know, you can take the best of views. हाँ हाँ
राइट
सर, जिस दिन बैंक मांगने लग जाएगा, जिस दिन उस दिन तो आप दोगे ही। वो तो कोई दिन ही नहीं रहेगा फिर then to stop it. So then we are saying LRS. So now LRS to or the gift. So gift to a relative. So gift to a relative, we have again two things. Gift to a relative, if going through LRS under FEMA account, definition of relative is different. It is taking the definition of Companies Act account. Gift to a relative in income tax is different. Definition of relative is different in income tax act. So far as FEMA is concerned, it is allowable 15 CBCA. You don't need to issue a 15 CA. Because that 33 list and RLS is exempt. But if that relative doesn't fall or is different and it doesn't fall under the category of that FEMA relative, which is a company's law relative, and it is a different relative so far and relative is under the definition of income tax act, then we are supposed to go to section 56, compute tax, deposit tax, and then gift. Very important.
If it is relative as per income tax but not relative as
Under FEMA.
FEMA,
Yeah.
then you have to.
Yes, you have to. So
We have to deduct UPS.
yes, sir.
Yes.
FEMA का वो relative ही नहीं है. कंपनीज एक्ट में वो रिलेटिव की डेफिनेशन में नहीं फॉल करता सर, इनकम टैक्स की डेफिनेशन आता सर. नाउ सर बहुत सारी लंबी सारी लिस्ट है. FEMA has got a more exhaustive list. Sir, I do not recall it, but I can share with you later. So now, sale of immovable property, we have already discussed in the first slide itself, that gross consideration versus net consideration. We are supposed to issue 15 CBA on the total amount, as already discussed.
12,000, 10,000.
नहीं वो वाला जो हमने इन्होंने बताया था उसने डिस्कस करा था कि प्रॉपर्टी का कितना भी पेमेंट हो, हमें तो पूरा TDS ही करना है अगर हम AO के पास नहीं जा रहे. Some chargeable to tax. Payment of salary, we have already discussed. 15 CBCA has to be issued. We will say that TDS is, though the TDS is deducted under section 192, still this has to come. Now there are again two things in this. One is that payment is made to, so basically what happens is that we are making a payment to a non-resident in the first year when he's an expat, and a non-resident in the first year of his tenure in India. And when that non-resident is making payment directly to his bank account. So what we do is that we make a payment to his NRO Indian account. So no 15 CBCA issued, and he makes payment. He transfers that amount to his foreign country. Then if he asks, we issue 15 CBCA, otherwise Part B goes. Absolutely fine. There we have no problem. Now what happens is that we are directly transferring to his foreign account. In that case, 15 CBCA has to be issued. Because he will be a non-resident in the first case, second year he will become a tax resident. So automatically, once he becomes a resident, even then if you're making a payment outside in his foreign country, foreign bank account, so far as you are concerned, not required, but bank will ask it, so you have to do. Now, remittance of payment from R to NR on account of rent, dividend to their NRO, we have already discussed all NRO accounts. When there is a transfer from a non-resident stock exchange, and the same is into capital loss. Though there is a capital loss, but it was some chargeable to tax, then only we could compute capital loss. So 15 CB has to be generated. Exceeding 5 lakhs, 195 to Part B or Part C. So far as 195 subsection 2, Part B will only go. Part C will not. If we are applying a lower TDS certificate, if you have got a lower TDS certificate, only Part B will go. Even if the amount exceeds 5 lakhs. Part C will not. 15 CB will not. Because AO has already determined that. I think that is all from my side.
There's one question.
बताइए.
After this form 15 CA, but DRC is not obtained or not obtained, you have to check it.
Change color.
It is obtained or obtained, but DRC नहीं है, because border transaction में declaration है उससे. और TNF है मेरे पास. उसका कोई कॉलम इसमें नहीं है.
सर TRC के लिए तो टिक कर रहा है ना.
अगर TRC नहीं है
तो
आपका इशू
ऑल्टरनेटिव उसमें वो दिखेगा बेनिफिट देने के लिए उन्हें TNF फिल करवा लिया या मैंने
सर सब कुछ कर लीजिए. TRC तो चाहिए.
TRC तो चाहिए.
TRC
कंप्लीट हो गया. थैंक्स.
कोई बात नहीं सर, आप कर दीजिए. हो गया सर, थैंक यू.
ओके मैडम, तो गाली बजवा
पहले
मैडम के लिए तालियां.
I think this was the very much practical session. So we have taken 2.5 hours. Thank you, madam, for this wonderful session.
How's the session time?
Our enterprise taxation starts and stops on 15 CA. That is a problem.
आर्टिकल 12 भी करना. आर्टिकल 12 भी करना.
नहीं है एक्चुअली पे एक्चुअली आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो. यंगस्टर्स होते हैं
डोमेस्टिक टैक्सेशन
इनिशियली सीए बनते हैं. अगर वो 15 सीए से भी ढंग से सही बनना कर देंगे कोई उनका इंटरेस्ट क्योंकि आप तो एक ऐसी स्टेज पे आ जाते हो, आपको टाइम
जहाँ पे इनकम टैक्स चार्जेबल टैक्स है वो बोल रहे हैं
आप उसको शुरू से ही 3-4 तो.
हाँ सर, 10th कॉलम वही है
मॉडल ढंग से पढ़ सब.
So friends, thank you, madam, for your wonderful session.
Thank you.
And now last topic of the today, जैसा कि पता है कि पोस्ट लंच वाला सेशन ऑनलाइन प्लान किया हुआ है. इस वीक में किसी दिन शाम को प्लान करते हैं. और आज का एक और टॉपिक रहता है जो fees for technical services and royalty. That is to be taken by Anshul ji, none other than Anshul ji. Give a big round of applause for Anshul ji. Please come. About profile, हम सबको पता है अंशुल जी की प्रोफाइल ऑलरेडी yesterday he was the man of the match, man of the day. So once again, तभी सर को जो ऑलरेडी प्लान था अंकित जी का सेशन, वो किसी रीजन से नहीं आ पाए और that has been assigned to अंशुल जी again.
ब्रेक चाहिए सर।
किसको ब्रेक चाहिए?
5 मिनट का बायो ब्रेक।
किसी को ब्रेक चाहिए क्या, या लंच ब्रेक सीधा कंप्लीट?
बायो ब्रेक चाहिए।
ठीक है, 2 मिनट का ब्रेक है।
प्रिंसिपल
नहीं देखो, इंडिविजुअली काउंट करो तो 2 मिनट सफिशिएंट होते हैं। Actually, आइए ना।
भाई ये टॉपिक ऐसा है पूरा वो तो 2 घंटे सवा घंटे में कवर करने की मैं कोशिश करूंगा, बट लेट्स सी क्वेरीज वगैरह की बहुत थोड़ा डिफरेंट, बट आई ट्राई तो कर दीजिए।
कल भी प्रिंसिपली
अब देखो इतना बज ही जाएगा आपका,
वो तो है।
1 बज जाएगा तो 1 घंटा तो चाहिए।
आप कल गौरव कल भी सेशन में भी बहुत कुछ फ्लेवर इसका भी था, आपने भी कल भी
मोटा डिस्कस करिए ऊपर से चीजें जो क्या है उसमें मेजर केस स्टडी क्या है। आप ना एक काम करो सर, एफटीएस की भी ना रॉयल्टी की भी खोल के रख दो साइड में, सो मैं वहाँ से कुछ छोटा मोटा कर
ओपन क्यों नहीं हो रहा? ये बड़ा क्यों हो रहा है?
तो जूमिंग कम हो गया।
ऐसे नहीं तो उसका फीचर कहाँ आ रहे हैं? कुछ करने दे।
होस्ट हो के नहीं
होस्ट हैं अभी। Yes. We are not that much. चला ये कभी हुआ था एक बार, मुश्किल में कई बार ट्राई मारने के बाद नहीं कर पाए। लैपटॉप